Right, so at least you get power.
Good evening and welcome to the May 18th work session and budget public hearing. And are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
Move to approve as presented.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Kathleen. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And we are on to number 3, the public hearing. The Budget Director Emily Bradford will assist in this. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Pat? Kathleen? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I have signed actually. Yeah, 3 people signed up. Anything you want to say before we?
That's not really.
Great. Okay, we have 3 people signed up. The first one is Dodger. So you walk in, welcome. And please, it's just a reminder to speak into the microphone for us, and we need to speak in the microphone so you can hear us as well. So thank you. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the time. Board members, town staff, members of the public. My only feedback, I guess, for this year for the 2027 budget and the other years that follow is to really just wanted to highlight and congratulate on the 2026 major accomplishments. One specifically that mentioned that the town was able to absorb health insurance rate increases, keeping costs of employees the same as 2025. I do not know the details as how it impacts dependents and spouses and partners, but I just want to encourage that this is one of those line items that, at least as a member of the public, it's probably unusual for someone to come up here and bring up that specific line item or highlight. But I think it's one of those areas that needs to be continued as a priority. I think the status quo should stay the same. If not, also consider other options of increasing funding and support as we see in years to come, many increases in the healthcare sector. And so it's just an area that I think as a constituent of this town, I think it's important that there is a continued discussion for town staff to receive the best possible coverage as it relates to their healthcare for their dependents and those that they care about that are under the same plan. And so I just really wanted to emphasize that. That's the only line item I wanted to bring today. And thank you guys for that. Congratulate y'all on that really statement. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And it is unusual for anyone to encourage us for doing that. So this is well welcome.
Thank you.
And Judith. All right.
Kevin and I are together.
Well, come on together. That's great. And Kevin, Good evening.
Good evening, y'all.
Good evening.
We thought y'all could, we could save you a little bit of time by just going together, but we just wanted to address you all to also just commend the budget, and we really appreciated the Rainy Avenue sidewalk design work being included in this budget, the recommended budget, and the plans for the sidewalk, hopefully constructed in fiscal year 2029. The sidewalk's been a long priority of the Fairview community, and it's been a really consistent topic at our meetings. It's a really important sidewalk that would connect the community center to an existing sidewalk that connects folks to Fairview Park, and also is along a couple of transit stops and connects a lot of folks in the neighborhood. So we just wanted to also just show support of that.
Yes, and I know we've receiving a lot of support from the town already, so we really appreciate that. As you all know, we were also able to fund some traffic calming measures on Rainy Avenue. And those have been very helpful in trying to get more people to be outdoors, bike, walk from places that are in the community. So specifically the community center, Fairview Park, and I live there, so I've seen people using them more frequently. So I think this sidewalk would really be beneficial for our community is one of those priorities that we've been trying to get in our communities. Appreciate that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Heather. Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Heather Tatro, Executive Director for the Hillsborough Arts Council. I just want to take a moment to thank the town for their support of the arts in this community. It really is something that sets Hillsborough apart from a lot of even our surrounding communities, to have the support of the town for our large community arts events, free community arts events, bring people together and breaks down barriers. And just want to thank you for that support.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments before? Thank you. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Rob. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to item number 4. The fiscal year 2027 budget workshop. Yeah. And this is obviously not the first discussion we've had on the budget. This is maybe the third or so, and maybe the last one before we act on the budget, and probably in June.
Good evening. So tonight we're going to talk about the recommended budget. And the thought was that we would sort of work through it in the order in which it appeared in the recommended workbook. So starting with the operating budget and then moving on to the CIP and then the decision points. And so that's sort of the framework we have here. And we have various members of various departments in the audience. So if there's any questions, hopefully they can answer any that you may have. And if not, we will certainly follow up with you for the meeting.
Great.
We'll get started.
Proceed.
So starting with the general fund. So I have sort of to help kind of guide the discussion, we have a PowerPoint here. It kind of breaks down all of the.
You're good.
Okay. That sort of highlights the different departments and the expansion or noteworthy requests that were made, just to sort of jog memories if you need it, but I know you all have documents in front of you as well. So starting with general government, any questions about accounting?
And many of us are taking notes on specific pages in
Yes.
the budget. So if you have references for that pages, those pages, then you could let us know. Make it easier for us to find our notes and questions.
The accounting is on 24. How about administration, which is on 27? Being none, communications, which is 31.
That one, I did a question on the communications for the kiosks. There was also a line item for, sorry. On my notes, I had a different organization, I don't think it worked this year. So there's also the wayfinding kiosks, and so just wondering, is there a way that savings could be seen by combining the two types of kiosks? Are they going in completely different locations? Are they going possibly the same locations? It's just, we've got 15,000, or sorry, 1050 per year for this one on this list, but then the wayfinding ones is a one-time 24,000. And I believe this one was because they wanted to add them as throughout the years. And yeah, that was my, so I'm bringing in the other line item also, but that was my question for the kiosks.
All right, I'll defer to Jen and Matt. Yeah, so that was one that communications had discussed with Stephanie and so she can definitely jump in and fill in for kind of what was the plan, but from the communications perspective, the guiding kind of motivation was to have somewhere that we could post information for an event of like emergency, whether it's like a situation like Helene where we need to get communication out to the community. That would be like a failover method to post information, but then we could post kind of throughout the year for different events. And so there had been a discussion around trying to coordinate those efforts, but the ones that communications was thinking was more of a low scale, sort of could be like temporary ones that get put up, whether that's like sandwich boards or but also they had also discussed some kiosks. So there had been conversations between the two on opportunities to coordinate. But I'm not sure if there was a final
Cause I think in
decision.
the wayfinding one, it mentions, but yes, it specifically mentions West Hillsborough, but it does talk about emergency information being posted on it at times. So I was kind of thinking that might have fallen like the same category of the two. So, yeah, but
Come on. I'll come up so you guys can hear me speak. I'm a little congested. So the two wayfinding kiosks for West Hillsborough, are the same ones that we have branded in other locations in town. We have one in Gold Park, we have a couple downtown, and they have the trail map and downtown map that sort of alerts people who are new to town how to find those key destinations and how the trail network works. And that's on one side. And then on the back side of those kiosks, we can post a bulletin board, which is what we have in Mayo Park, for instance, or at the Riverwalk entrances. And then those bulletin boards can be used to hang posters, which we can print on our plotter. And those are absolutely available for emergency information if we need to get it out. But I think if I understood Catherine correctly, these other kiosks, which are more like temporary emergency signage, are something that would be portable and be able to be put in different parts of town depending on where the message needed to get out. For instance, if we had a certain situation in Cornwallis Hills, for instance, or Beckett's Ridge, we might be able to make those signs more available for a particular use, whereas the kiosks themselves are, they're in concrete and they're really intended for those key destinations, West Hillsborough, Calvin Street, entrance to the trail.
I guess that's probably where, because I think in the budget, it links to an actual solid wooden in the ground.
Oh, I may have misunderstood, Catherine.
$3,500 each, looking at 3 per year for 3 years, and so one of my questions, I know Catherine's out of town, but she mentioned reaching out to community partners, and so I was curious who those community partners were for emergency sort of things, and then where we specifically envision those being. And I know right now we're using sandwich boards and stuff, kind of mobile temporary, but my understanding was the idea is to have more permanent ones moving forward.
Yeah, the distinction between the two is, the wayfinding is more visitors, tourists, folks that are, needing information, they're new to town. And this would help build information kiosks in communities, so the neighborhoods throughout town, so that we have a place to go if people know in an emergency where we don't have cell communication or internet down, they know we're gonna post information there, they can access it in their neighborhood. That's the distinction.
So they would be more permanent, it sounds like that.
That's the idea.
Sorry, I misunderstood that.
Oh, that's okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's why I'm asking the questions too, to make sure that we've got it right, okay, and have the locations then decided, I mean, if it's only 3 per year, it seems like a pretty slow rollout for each neighborhood.
Good Communications is working with neighborhoods to try to establish some appropriate locations. Once we know that the project's funded, that can move forward on solidifying that.
And the thought was to pilot them in the first year and maybe focus on 1 or 2 potentially and see how it goes and then kind of scale it up as we get more experience with it.
And for the wayfinding kiosks, we realized that there was a gap in information in West Hillsborough around the widths in doggy store area where people sometimes are coming to Hillsborough and that's where they're landing. And there's no way for them to understand where they are in proximity to downtown.
Yeah. I guess I'm thinking of like the Mayo Park one where.
Yeah.
It's got the bulletin board, and isn't the one by the police station also have like a,
There's a bulletin board on one side and a map on the other.
yeah, okay.
And that's
what I guess was
exactly
kinda
what
like-
we're talking about for the wayfinding kiosks. It's just extending that program we already have, but trying to capture that vacant, area around Calvin Street. The Calvin Street entrance to Riverwalk is also a place where people get a little turned around and confused, if they're not from here.
Yeah.
And the bulletin boards are great because that's where we put our calendar of events and can let people know what's coming, come back, visit Hillsborough again. But we can also certainly use that for any type of emergency, notification that we would want to put out, but they're more in, tourist destinations than they are in neighborhoods.
Yeah, like this is, I'm thinking Cornwallis Hills, maybe it's a park or something like that too. That's what you're thinking, like West Hillsborough, it's at like Mayo's Park or
Mhm.
Murray Street Park or something like.
Yeah, like a common gathering point
Yeah.
for the neighborhood.
Okay.
We need to work through like the agreements to be able to put it on that.
Okay. Are there? I'm trying to think of the parks, and if there are, I think there's really just the sign that says the name of the park, right? Not really,
No, there's a bulletin board at both Gold Park and Case Creek Park and the restrooms.
but just the big parks,
Just-
not like
just
the
community parks.
Murray and all those.
Yeah, the pocket parks don't necessarily.
Yeah, except for Mayo, but which that's more touristy though too, because it's right.
Yeah.
And there's a bulletin board at the Fairview Community Center, which they installed, and it's like a triple bulletin board, which they use to put information out, which is super helpful. And I believe there's a bulletin board also at Fairview Park, which is an Orange County resource, but it's available as well.
Oh, one thing we can do, and this may not be the only item in the budget, it's not uncommon, if staff needs more time to develop something. Just because funds are put in the budget doesn't mean we'll spend them, so we can leave them in as a placeholder, but based on the conversation right now, like, we won't move forward with this until we come back to the board and can show you a clear picture of how things will work. And I'm responsible for causing the trouble, as part of our emergency planning is Jen and Matt had already referred to. One thing that's common when you see major disasters in other communities, like there is no cell phone coverage. I am trapped in my neighborhood because all the trees are down. I can't get out. So one of the things we talked about and I experienced in other jurisdictions, you have to go old school and trying to come communication, but it's so staff's been spending a fair amount of time, but we just haven't figured out the system. So again, we'll continue to work on it and then come back to work with something.
Okay. I think that satisfies my question.
I want to just comment on the thing. So I looked at, I guess the website that Catherine had listed on there too. It looks like it's out of Vermont. And they have specs and everything too, and looking at $3,500 for each one. And my question is if we can find a way to do that with either Cedar Ridge, or Orange High School, woodworking apartments or Eagle Scout project or something locally. I have no problem spending the money, but I'd much rather keep that money here if we can. And so if we could look into potentially doing that, locally, I'd be more excited about it.
I would say, I am excited because that's one of the things that came out in City Vision is communities don't have old school in a lot of areas, and for the reasons that you talked about, it's not uncommon, and we have neighborhoods. And since we're gonna be getting one that will have one entrance and it's blocked. That's not good, but also, Josh Bailey, I think I just screwed up that name. Stephen R. Bailey is Josh's Hope, there we go. Josh's Hope Foundation, it's a nonprofit, but if we were to purchase, it supports dual diagnoses and are lifesavers for folks that they don't have many places to go anywhere in the state, and Josh's Hope is right here. And so it's able to support mental health nonprofit and these individuals with what they're doing also.
Written those down, so we'll look into them.
And
And
that's something that
Stephen R. Bailey is the executive director of Josh's Hope.
we had discussed the possibility of trying to build them in-house, but that we didn't have the capacity, so knowing about these additional resources, we can certainly look into them. Follow.
Any other questions on communications? Seeing none, disasters on page 34. Facilities management, page 35. Governing body, 44.
Question, so, I know I'd asked about the generator that would potentially move to, Dorothy Johnson Community Center. Do we have any idea what we could get for if we sold that and chose, or if we chose that option, what that even would be, is it hundreds of dollars, or is it?
Thousands, and it's old, but it's still serviceable and they're hard to get a hold of. It's either listed now or about to be listed. It's sitting in the parking lot. Oh, back here.
Okay.
I already declared it surplus.
Okay.
Already.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. No.
I have a question on facilities management. It's not on your slide, and I didn't see a budget justification form for it, but the freshened exterior of the old furniture store, can you provide also more information about that?
I believe that one's already been completed. Is that the 26th?
It's
So we recently painted.
it's in here.
Yeah. Where's that?
It's
at?
on page 35.
It's listed as an.
Oh, major
It's
accomplishments.
an
Never
accomplishment
mind.
from the year, yeah, and that,
Okay,
that was
never
really
mind.
just a fresh coat of paint and dealing with the awnings that were falling apart. It's done.
Okay. Sorry, I got mixed up. I had a question because I
Yeah.
don't really think it did much, to be honest with you.
It was a little project.
Human resources, 46. IT,
Sure. Question regarding that. Unofficial welcome sign easement. So I know that's been a space where. People have posted things forever, but I'm not convinced that's necessarily the place that we want to welcome people to Hillsborough. And so I just want to think about other places that we would invest in, and invest for something like this. And not only in one place, but, you know, all the kind of different ways that you can enter Hillsborough. I'm not saying for this fiscal year, I'm just curious how much money we want to put into something that we don't even, I guess it would be an easement, so we would. Discuss this last year.
We've talked about it well, since I've been on the board, we've talked about it, not every year, about every other year. Just as you said, that's not where you enter town, and we enter north, south, and east, west. There's nothing on 70, there's north, south, we're a lot longer, and having a uniform welcome identity. And I wouldn't expect, and like you, not this year, but communities, surrounding communities, wherever you go in, there's a sign, a welcome, and we just have one.
Like I see several staff chomping at the bit to sign up for that. Sam?
So you're right, that's not where we would want to welcome people. However, I can't reface a sign that we don't have a legal access easement for. So if anybody has any additional history, I think at one time we had Bob's office look into trying to find some kind of a deed. I think what happened is when this went in, it was like a handshake agreement. We also allow people to hang banners here, but they're really just two metal poles are kind of getting a little off as well. I would love to put an actual metal frame banner holder here using tourism funds potentially, but again, we can't really make that investment or change this sign without getting some type of an easement and something legally drawn up with the Capital Ford dealership ownership.
And understand this, but there's this, but 70 into Waterstone. And 70, what's that, yeah.
So you're gonna talk about wayfinding and
Yeah.
what this looks like?
So you have to go way back in your memory break to 2012 when we developed the wayfinding signage plan. And if you can't remember, I can send you a copy of it. It may even still be on the website. But there were locations selected for Welcome to Hillsborough signage, and it was part of the 70 quarter plan, part of the Churton plan. All of that was wrapped in. Those plans are still there, but what we're waiting for is the road projects because the roads are changing. So 70 is changing, 8657 is changing, Churton is changing, 86 is changing. I don't know what's happening with old 86. But those locations are still kind of marked in my head as places where we would extend our wayfinding sign with a and there is actually like a design for the Welcome to Hillsborough that matches the wayfinding. That is separate from what Shannon is talking about, which is maintaining what we have right now in better working order, making it work. Because those roadway projects, they could be, 7, 8, 10 years off. But when the roads are redone, we will certainly look for places to welcome people to Hillsborough from all of those access points.
But thank you for it, because
It's way back, 2012.
I knew we had it.
We have it.
And I know we talked about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of a stopgap in the meantime. We do already have this existing sign. We could potentially reface it. Maybe it doesn't say welcome, maybe it has, town logo on it or something else, but we can't really do anything with it right now legally.
And just a reminder, at one point, this was the southern part of town. The southern part of town is just several miles.
A little taller.
Just a little.
On that. I just got to thinking now about this, like, so if we do the easement, mentioned refacing it, so if that happens. What are we looking at for redoing it then? Like for 28 to 29?
I don't know yet, because I don't have any, so like step one would be to get the legal easement around the sign and make sure that the property owner is fine with granting that easement. And then we can start kind of putting together plans. I think we could use a combination of probably tourism money, because really this is a tourism thing with the banners with announcing the events and stuff is more of a tourism focused thing. But getting the legal easement for the sign feels definitely more like a town operations thing.
My next question was like, this is a tourism.
Probably, but we need to get the legal easement with the town.
Okay, thank you.
Don't go too far.
I'm not.
Because I do have some questions about the code enforcement abatement, just how the first year has gone. Y'all recently had, I guess, maybe your first public hearing with the board of adjustment, how that went.
Yeah, I think it's going really well. The relationship has been really good with the third party contractor, as I kind of assumed, but we had to put into play. I think having that third party lets people know that we are serious about doing the code enforcement and getting the abatements done. Anyone who's interacted with me knows that I am more of like a work with you, touchy-feely, like I want to help people. And so I think that having that third party where they're the same way, but they're like, we got to get this done. Like we can't continue to kind of let the house fall in, to let the junk accumulate. I think that having that kind of buffer person has been really helpful. We did have our first set, we did 5 public hearings for abatement of nuisance and abandoned structures. We have had one torn down over, it was already falling down, but it was over at 116 Terrain. I believe 533 West King is also going to tear down shortly. We had an appeal at 120 West Corbin Street for a house that did have a lot of historic value and was landmarked at one point many years ago. We did an extension on that one to would give them more time because they did decide that they wanted to restore the house, which is a big undertaking. And then we've got one that we haven't heard from, and that may end up be the one that we end up having to remove and place the lien on the property. But I mean, I think it's been going really well. For the most part, we've gotten a lot of self abatements, which I think has been helpful. But yeah, more to come.
And for properties like the property I've talked to you about where I'm taking, there's three of us who are taking almost daily pictures of the heavy equipment. That's there all the time. They may change faces, but it's still there. Who do we actually start? I mean, I know some have been sent to you, but we're gonna send a steady stream, but who do we send that to?
You can send them to me. You can also, so we have a couple of different ways you can report code enforcement complaints. We've got one code enforcement form on the website. You can send them directly to me, or you can send them directly to our code enforcement officer. Just all of the above is fine.
Because we want to document the pattern of behaviors.
Yeah.
So that it's
We try to get something
very
done on it.
clear. Yeah, 2 backhoes in the front yard.
My question, we had 20,000, I'm trying to find it in here, but is it, we had 20,000 in FY 26 and now it's up to 30, was it 35, 36? Okay, some reason I had 36.
Yes, and the 20,000 was, we didn't get the contract started right at the beginning of the fiscal year, so those were essentially like lapse funds that we were gonna use to try and get some abatements done. We've done a fair amount of work in this fiscal year, but we'll probably need money for the next few fiscal years to keep just kind of catching up basically on abatements where people don't self-abate.
And it was 35, oh, sorry, 35 each year. Okay.
And then, my second question on the abatement, did y'all going through the abatement process? Because normally our previous system was complaint driven and we didn't really have anyone dedicated to it. Did you identify any potential improvements to code of ordinances, EPO, anything that might be coming to us later?
We rewrote, you may recall several months ago, we rewrote a bunch of chapters of the Code of Ordinances just to make them align with current state law and best practices in code enforcement. I think the only thing that I'm struggling with right now, which Bob is going to help me with is, and I think I've heard from some of you, is trying to figure out what we're going to do in coordination with the Historic District Commission on abandoned and dilapidated structures in the district. The historic standards really want you to go through the demolition by neglect process to try and save the home. But in some instances, some of these houses have already they've already fallen down. So working with Bob to try and figure out what the process is going to be with those. We obviously want to run those by the Historic District Commission and get their feedback on, hey, you know, do you want us to run this through demolition by neglect based on its condition, or do you want us to go ahead and just use the standard abatement in the town code? And I think that's gonna get tricky. We're gonna have to work with our preservation partners. A lot of it's gonna depend on, does the house have any historic significance? How old is it? Are there architectural features? Or is it like a 80 split, split level? It maybe doesn't. And then also what kind of condition the home is in, you know. We found one, I think, over on Union, which is an interesting one. You can't see it real well when there's leaves on the trees. And it looks like the house is intact, but actually the whole 3 sides of the back have fallen in. But somehow the porch and the front facade is still standing. So that's like a good example of like, I don't really know that demolition by neglect is gonna work here because the house is basically already fallen down. But we can't go around the Historic District Commission. We kind of have to run that through them.
And while we all are talking, maybe a suggestion, I don't know how this necessarily works, but as I understand it, the HDC does have some purview that extends beyond the historic district in terms of preserving structures and maybe that's also an area of collaboration where maybe you run into something that in the historic district would be a covered structure, in terms of the look back, but, just to go through that and collaborate additionally beyond the agency for that, for those preservation efforts would be great too. That's all I have.
When a house is already, like you just described, demolition by neglect, hasn't that already been demolition by neglect when it is fallen in?
Kind of, I mean, that's kind of why I said we were coordinating with Bob on that. A lot of that is kind of in the eye of the beholder. There's language in the town code that talks about, you know, the tax value getting to a certain point. And again, a lot of it depends on the historic significance, architectural features that are still there, how much of the house has fallen, or like, is it a minor hole in the roof of an addition that may not be contributing anyways? There's just I will say every case is different because all of the houses are in some different level of disrepair.
Right, but I'm just saying, when you have 4 walls and 3 are gone or down.
That's probably a good candidate for not going to demolition by neglect, but I would hate to cut the HDC out of that and feel like we sidestepped them.
There's tension between minimum housing code and enforcement and what its purpose is, and what the historic district's purpose is.
Gotcha.
What is preservation? The other is bringing property, either demolish it and bring it up to code.
Yeah.
And sometimes where those jurisdictions overlap, there's tension between the process and who gets to make the decision.
I
Understood.
think the Colonial Inn was a great example that we had both minimum housing code in there. But Kathleen, I think maybe to help answer your question, the demolition by neglect, somebody has to bring that charge against. the
Okay.
owner. So if nobody does anything, then town's not aware that there is a demolition by neglect. But the code enforcement adds another layer of
Yeah.
awareness and actionability to it that.
Thank you.
I have one question, I think it's for Chris regarding, printer standardization.
Oh, well,
Fall asleep over there.
yeah, you weren't planning, I was like.
Can you, so I'm trying to, understand this, are these like desktop printers, we're talking about, copiers that people have ability to print to? What is the plan?
The vision is to unify at each location a standardized printer that we are paying a contract for, where we are paying a unit cost. Where instead of having a desktop printer, as you know, you buy a desktop printer, it runs for a little while, you have to buy ink, it's quite as much more than the printer itself. E-waste, all that other stuff. If we standardize, we have a contract we can negotiate with in regards to making sure that we have best price, that people have an ability to print, that if something goes wrong, we have a repair source for it. So trying to make sure that across the fleet, we have an opportunity for people to do that. So,
Do you envision this being a copier and?
multifunction device, yeah, so scanning, printing, so on and so forth. We don't fax anymore, we've moved over to an e-fax, but in the same vein, you'd have a single unit that would be serviceable.
You can still print out from that e-fax though, right?
Yeah, the e-fax is in case someone must fax, we still have
Yeah,
electronic
that's
faxes. That project's already.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I would be remiss if I sat down before we talk, I want to put a plug in on the physical security standardization and upgrades. We are currently already budgeted to do some layer of work in this fiscal year. We have a physical security working group, which we have some members in the audience with, that we're creating standards and policies and making sure that employees have a safe place to work, where we have a badge that we're presenting and they are able to get in and feel safe and secure. It is a big project. We have a number of sites at varying degrees of deployment of physical security. And so we are hoping to get that done at some level this year, but also in future years as well. So standardization means we're trying to move to a unified system where everyone knows who has access to what. And upgrades is where we're deploying it to locations that either don't currently have it or have it on a separate system or on older system that we'd like to move over. So just want to be clear on that one. We are eager to get going on that. It's really exciting. So
I'm excited for you for that too. I think it's needed. And there's one last thing, I know it's fiscal year 2029, we're talking about phone system stuff, but and I think you mentioned this, Microsoft Teams, which you already have, has that capability, and would you be looking to eventually?
Yeah, so I didn't want to commit to anything because of the need to make sure that we're using the best possible product. We do have a lot of reasons that Microsoft Teams might be the right solution, but in a way that I believe Eric said placeholder numbers, we have some placeholder number there in regards to vetting with outside groups. We do have two phone systems currently. They talk a little bit to each other, but in terms of management, in terms of resources available, they're here in the town. So if the internet goes out at key locations, we lose phone services. Not everywhere. We have 24/7 at the water plant, and we always will. But it's one of those things where we're trying to standardize from two disparate systems for management reasons, for just keeping things consistent. And also bringing us into a system where if you're not in the office, you're still getting a consistent calling experience.
The other thing that, apparently like a POTS line now is like over $200 or something.
We have eliminated all POTS lines except for the one in the water treatment plant, which again, we are treating with very high standards because it is the key phone system in our town.
Nice, I realize you.
Yeah, it was one of my top goals was off of that. A lot of elevator lines, a lot of fire panels, but we got there.
I actually had similar thing was going to, going to soft phone versus what do we do and then, what is our communications when as Western North Carolina, there are no.
Yep. So I would stress in all situations, we want to have backups to backups to backups because there's just any system, regardless if it's here in town, if it's up in the cloud, goes down. We had one ISP vendor say they had 100% uptime or something like that, and I scoffed. But anyway, so but we want to make sure that we have redundancies in place, and so again, in things like the water plant, we want to make sure that we have services that are high uptime and also have backups just in case. And so it's a good catch. Yeah, soft phones are a touchy thing for some people. Some people very strongly feel that they need a handset. Some people feel completely comfortable migrating to a laptop, and we'll have to figure out what that looks like. Part of the budget number that we have in there as placeholder is for figuring out that, and that might be with a third-party vendor, or it might be something where we need to figure out a strategy. So,
I got Christmas gifts with the little handset that plugs in your phone.
no one's getting a rotary.
That was a stocking step to stick right into your cell phone.
I do want to circle back to the printer standardization. I don't think it was immediately clear to me in the budget. So. Scroll to that page.
What page that is?
It's page 53.
I think it's page 23.
So in the standardization, will this be basically a service contract where we get rid of all of our machines, they bring in their own machines, releasing them, they're taking care of everything?
So we
rather than owning the hardware?
Yeah, essentially. So we currently have a lease agreement at certain locations here in town, and this would be standardizing to something to that effect. Where economies of scale, making sure that we have one contract under the joke in terms of having issues with a vendor, then we can check. So.
Especially with planned obsolescence of machines, I don't think it's a good use to appropriate that much money if it's for actual hardware that we own that in the next 5 years may suddenly not work as well as it used to.
I love IT, but I will be candid and say printers are my enemy. So I don't, as long as we have someone else managing those, I think we'll be doing fine.
And then just a comment, because I know you responded to my question about the museum building with the physical security upgrades and standardization. And I would like to make a pitch that it's possible, if it's not a budget buster, with key card access and exterior cameras, that we consider that, just because it is a pretty expensive, I would assume, asset that we have, a valuable asset that we have. And I think that if there is any reason, as the leasehold, as the owner of the building, even though we have a lease with the museum, that we may have, operational reasons why we might need access to the building or that sort of thing. And I hope asset management has a set of keys to the building. But I know the keys when I was on the board as the treasurer were quite old. And so I would want to make sure that if we need to upgrade the locks, that we do, that that sort of thing happens.
If our facility manager was here, he would also agree with you. It's one of those things. I would defer to my colleagues in regards to timing and things of that nature. I would say from our standpoint, from the physical security working group, our focus is making sure that the employees are being taken care of first, where we have our assets, where we have our employees that we value. We want to make sure that some of the employee surveys that, if safety is a concern, we need to address that. And so this is an attempt to work towards that goal. I agree that if we find that that is something that we want to do, we will absolutely bring that in under the standardization aspect of it to make sure that it's using the same system so that officers are able to get in and the key facilities manager has the right keys. Of course.
You want to see folder. Any questions about? Public space is on page 58.
So the picnic shelters, the one at the Riverwalk, I mentioned it a couple weeks ago when it was first brought up. I'm a little challenged with that one because of the small footprint there and what we're really getting for that. Like the one at Kate's Creek, like I went there today, that place is hot. It's really hot. I mean, it's a hot day, but it's a lot of concrete, and that one almost seems like a no-brainer from my perspective, but the one at the Riverwalk, I am a little bit more challenged, and just wondering, do you have any more to say about it, Stephanie, or like any other input from the board on that, like, almost like maybe plant a couple oaks on the southern portion of that?
We have planted some Princeton elms down there and they should grow someday, very large. And it is shadier at the Riverwalk entrance, but when the Parks and Rec Board did a master plan for Riverwalk, one of the things they were thinking about is how do we make this, how do we address safety in terms of heat, or if there's a sudden thunderstorm, how do we make an area that people can sit and really visit for a long time there? Those spaces are a little bit underutilized right now. People sort of walk through there, and we were thinking, I think Rob was on Parks and Rec Board when we were talking about it, but part of it was like, how do you create that sort of living room community feel there right at the entrance to the trail? And the thought was that the shelter would provide, some relief on hot days, a place to sit and have a picnic, maybe a place for a club to meet, or book club or knitting club or something like that. Certainly during COVID, we realized that those outdoor spaces were coveted and in short supply. And so that was a recommendation in the Riverwalk master plan. Separately from that, the Parks and Rec Board did an update to the master plan at Kate's Creek Park. And I think it's very obvious that we need shelter at Kate's Creek Park. It is burning hot out there. We get those summer, sudden thunderstorms. Sometimes the little school has classes down there. I mean, if I'm just giving my personal opinion, I think the one at Kate's Creek Park is a higher priority in terms of, checking all the boxes, but both were prioritized as top priorities in their respective plans, which is why we put them both forward. I do think there are usually some economies of scale when you do two things at once, because I can use the same, firm to develop drawings, to pick, matching colors that work with our wayfinding system, and we may be able to save some money. The $35,000 is a guess because the cost of metal fluctuates about as fast as the cost of asphalt. And so we could come in way under budget, which is what I would hope. 35,000 would be like, more like if we're in a period of time where metal is very expensive, because we would be looking at a metal roof. They just last longer, easier to maintain.
I guess like when I was at Kate's Creek today, and I know this isn't what you prefer, but I'm almost like, instead of building the structure at the Riverwalk, more shade. I mean, like the kids were playing like under a tree that like the tree was only trimmed up maybe 4 feet. So it was just one of those things where like the Riverwalk has, you can get reprieve a little bit up the hill, or if it's rainy, you can go into the parking garage.
And the master plan for Kate's Creek Park does have additional shelters closer to the skate park and the field, you know, hopeful, recommendations for future years, but if you wanna take the money and move it over there now, like, we can work with you. These are definitely kind of should do items, not must do items. But again, just trying to take care of those spaces we have that we know people are using, we know they love, and make it feel more welcoming, have people stay there for longer.
So, thing is with the metal and thunderstorms, that's not safe.
Well, it's aluminum, so.
Yeah, it's still, I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's like, I worry,
All of our picnic shelters that we have so far have a metal roof
I
and
know.
they're grounded too. So,
okay, cause I'm like, that's,
yeah, these are all from certified, you know, structural,
okay.
they go through structural engineering.
Well, I was just gonna, we talk about how we repurpose some trees at Cape Creek to increase shading of the shrub.
We're trying, much like Gold
And,
Park, over many years, it takes a long time for trees to grow, but Tree Board has done an amazing job, with the limited funds they have trying to get trees planted at all of our parks, and I am starting to see some height come to the trees that we planted around the field, over by the skate park, and certainly the rain garden and around the playground area looks vastly different than it did 10 years ago. But again, it takes a while to get that real canopy cover. We don't even have that at Gold Park yet, and those trees are about 20 years old.
But the idea is what because we just had this giant full-size soccer field that, you know, really only gets used in certain sections, and you have to provide more shade actually for that space. For that space in that part, to basically plant more trees.
Well, and also the hill that exists on the south side of that, of the multi-use field is all white pines, and those tend to sort of age out at about the same time. So in preparation for losing some of those white pines, we put in a bunch of hardwoods and natives, there, so they can provide shade as the sun is moving across the field. And I do think that will help eventually, although I think there's probably a need to have more than one picnic shelter at Kate's Creek Park with as much use as it's getting. And it could even be, you know, if we, you know, in future years have a lot of funding, you know, to build a larger size shelter over by the field, that could be something that could be used as a rental space, which is also in short supply.
Stephanie, could you just briefly describe the concept for the entrance to Route 1?
Yeah, so right now, if you're, you know, at Weaver Street and you're looking down towards Riverwalk, there's sort of two decks, one on each side and then a path in the middle. The idea in the master plan was to use to have a shade shelter on one side. So there would be one side that still had sun. If you want to sit in the sun, that's great. That would be where the benches are. And then the picnic shelter would just be attached to the existing platform and would cover where the picnic area is, the picnic table.
In that regard, it was like, if this is approved and everything like that, is to really have some good design and making sure that the sun, if it's on the north, the structure's on the north side, that we don't miss people, you know, like, to make sure that we've really got. At one point, I was like, what are we gonna do? What about the south side? Just flop the whole thing.
Oh, we could do it that way too. That's open for discussion, absolutely. And the picnic shelter and the benches are not attached, so those can be moved.
And I think I was just having a hard time with, because there's only one picnic table there right now, and putting a $35,000 structure on. There's maybe 6 people.
I've seen groups meet there.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure people, yeah, I mean, they meet there, there's people there, but
But
it's also a lot for. If we fit more picnic tables there, or, you know, like, I don't.
I hear what you're saying, I'm afraid it's more, so it's not.
Yeah, it's just, and again, there's reprieve, like, not even 10th of a mile. Up it's up the hill, yeah, but I think there's a bench actually halfway up too, up that way.
There's
Yeah,
several
there's
benches
several
right on there.
benches
There's
right along.
another observation platform with another set of picnic tables up there, but that's definitely in the shade.
Yeah. And yeah, that's just my comments on this. I'm curious to hear what the rest of the board have to say about it. Some of these hills I'm gonna die on, so.
I mean, I kind of like the idea, especially over time, as more people use mounts to see and, you know, picking things up at Weaver Street. Yes, the people eat at Weaver Street, it gets crowded. And if you don't, you know, if you want to hang around over there, it's right there. But still proximity, if you want to go to Weaver Street, if you want something else, or you know, that, I do like the idea of having something so it makes it more usable. Because what I've noticed are the groups where it's like, oh, we could do there except, and I think that would remove the excepts.
Other questions for Stephanie, public spaces?
On the picnic shelter in Cades Creek, was the original shelter built by a developer?
Yes, the whole park was built by a developer and then turned over to the town.
So living in the neighborhood,
Mhm.
it's very difficult to sit under the shelter this time of year because of sun and angles, and it really doesn't provide you any shelter as this time of day. Because they never, I guess, took into account where the sun sets. I assume we will take into account where the sun is, so it's actually
Yeah,
you're
we're
not roasting in the hottest part of the day.
Yeah, and we were in trying to keep the costs down, just being mindful of, but in tight budget times, we were. Parks and Rec Board was thinking about using the existing concrete area adjacent to the building for the shelter. So it's still there right next to the playground. It's still there right next to the building. We would work together to make sure that the designs work together. But it would basically provide shade over that existing concrete area, and we could expand the picnic tables there for like larger parties and classes. There's a lot of classes that go there.
But to your point about, because it is no shade. I mean, I've been in parks where there is the self-serve dropped, you know, the drop shade. I can't talk. Drop shades there. What is the durability of those?
I don't know the cost off the top of my head, but I would say the durability for anything made out of anything besides metal is fairly low at our parks. We have.
Especially if there's a moving part.
And moving parts and kids, and it's just easy, it's very easy for things like that to break. I also know that a lot of the sunshades, which is one of the lower cost alternatives that we looked at on the Parks and Rec Board, they have like wind ratings, and so they have to be removed by park staff in certain storms and wind scenarios. Well, we don't have a park staff, and so part of the cost that you're seeing in this is something that's manageable for us. You know, the metal roof, solid structures, they may be more expensive to start with, but they have much lower life costs. They're warranted for much longer, and we don't have to go out there every single day and try to take care of it and manage it, because we don't have the staff for that.
Hillsborough sized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and just, I mean, maintenance is just something that we really have to think about, absolutely.
Questions? Thank you for that.
You're ready to be so productive.
Yeah. I just had a comment, regarding general government stuff. One is I really like the work that did with the reorg for the community services, proposal. I think that's gonna pay dividends down the road. And also the safety and risk management, as Dodger referred to, you know, it's not often where we, don't have like a significant increase in healthcare costs. And so I think there was some information in there basically that increase in the training and stuff that we did with staff may have contributed to lower workman's comp claims and insurance and property damage claims too. So I want to say kudos to that and encourage more of that. So anytime we can keep our workman's comp claims down and our property damage claims down, it's a good year.
Next up, we have public safety. Any questions about fire protection?
I have one question about the truck. We're ready to talk about truck. That is, if the expense won't be for a couple more years, around that, is the price going to change dramatically between now and then? Are we really aiming for the right target for the total cost of that truck, or do you already know that?
So we do have, we used current day prices, and we did apply an escalator. I'm sure it will probably be inaccurate, but we're hoping that we'll at least be close. So yeah, we did stuff that then.
And are we going, I mean, I know we're pretty good about seeking, but this is one of the things that, in terms of the continuum of getting the federal state dollars for and the local bills and such. This is something that's one of the easiest. Have we made plans for that, thought about that, for funding?
you'd have to give me some examples of communities getting fire trucks. I know I see sometimes sporadically smaller units do it, but if you can give me the information, we'll pursue it. I'm just not aware of it.
And what's only, Kyle Hall has gotten a whole lot of fire buildings and equipment.
Kyle Hall.
He's the representative of, Forsyth, oh gosh,
You can do that when you're in legislative leadership.
I know that, but I've seen some of that elsewhere. I use that as an example because it's right there. But they're pretty amenable and it ends up bipartisan support, which is why I'm thinking it's worth asking. The worst they'll do is say no.
So, which, are you talking federal or state?
State.
Seems if, we're talking about talking to our legislative delegation, that seems like that's an elected official.
Oh, I'm gonna be, actually Wednesday, I'm gonna be on Jones Street. Talking to, so that's, I mean, I will be there for the COGS, but I always take it opportunities if I can make a plug. I do.
Yeah, please do have at it. As far as, I know the fire station we'll talk about later. I met with, one of the representatives, of course, Senator Tillis won't be here this time next year. We're all familiar with the program, the Representative Fouché and then Representative Price before, the community reinvestment or whatever they call that program on the House side. There's a similar earmark program on the Senate side. So when I met with Tillis's rep about a month ago, he mentioned fire stations were a good one to pursue. So if we're, whatever we do, whether it's the rehab or building a new station, but we have to have a plan we can show people. So if we can get that done by early next year, then we could submit that. Now that Senator Budd does not participate in that program, it's something he doesn't support. So whoever the replacement is for Tillis's seat, we need to go ahead, and that'll be an area we need board assistance to find out who's the staff. How does the new senator feel about that? Are they going to participate? But again, the fire stations were specifically mentioned as, or public safety centers were one that had potential.
And I'll just mention that in Orange County is probably a tier 3 county.
That
And
is-
tier 1 counties where they're most economically distressed probably are favored for those
Well,
kinds of things.
actually, that's a whole different ballgame. This is, when it comes to fire, it's a different set of politics than the economic development pot. The economic development, you're absolutely right. We're just out of the game. But something like this, we've got a decent shot at it.
Let's add that to the mix.
I do have a question, Chief, about the radio encryption. It was something that was just very interesting to me. Can you tell me more about it and kind of, I mean, I read the justification form, but which municipalities have already moved over to it? The safety dimension, the personally identifiable information stuff, like, what is it? What is the situation now and how will this?
We were recently made aware of it, came from Central Communications. I don't believe anyone in Orange County has made a conversion yet. Other municipalities outside of Orange County have. The whole idea is that people are using AI systems to record all the data that comes through communication, like dispatch with radio. Since our radios are not encrypted, they have access to that information. So they can give all kinds of identifiable information about people, including addresses, names, medical conditions, call outs. You can even get something as simple as patterns of police responses. I mean, it could be a multitude of different things. So the idea behind the encryption, whenever it happens, we're not sure if it's gonna happen right away. That's why we put a placeholder, you know, having it there just in case. But it's just to make sure that we are able to communicate with the rest of the county. I know that Chapel Hill, Marlboro, I'm sure Orange County, but I know those other two jurisdictions have expressed interest in going ahead and making the switch too, so.
when you purchase that equipment, we all be able to potentially go in together, maybe get a better price for it, or?
So the way it works, unfortunately, is you meet with, like if it's a Motorola radio, they also have Kenwoods. So we'll have to work with two different providers for that. They charge different prices for Motorola's and for Kenwoods. They will come, they'll individually plug in each radio, do a quick update with a computer, and then they hand you back your radio and they charge you. So it's proprietary.
There's no equipment involved, it's just software.
Exactly. They're updating our software.
And I assume, how will that eventually interface with Orange Rule? Because I can envision y'all possibly are responding to the same location, different needs, et cetera. Are they already encrypted? Do they plan to be encrypted? How does it work on the fire side, do you know?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can reach out to Chief Cave. That's a very good question. I'm sure that if we reached out to, I'm sure they received some sort of notification. But I'll still touch base with them and find out.
That would be helpful, especially with our contract potentially,
Yeah.
if we need to provide any additional funding for that contract.
I'll make a note of that right now. Thank you.
I have a quick question regarding the fire station ramp up expansion when funded now. So regardless of where we choose to either renovate or build, would we still want that ramp up?
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, let me try, take a stab at the answer. If, it depends on what the cost is. So I think it's highly, at the 300, we started working up and we got to the $300,000 level. And the budget looked tight last year, so we flatlined that out. Knowing that the current estimate for a station rebuild would be about $680,000 a year debt service. So yeah, under that model, we've got a gap of $380,000 a year. If we do the study that Chief Cave is recommending, like what would it take to do this reno and what would the cost be? Of course, it sounds like, hey, this could be a great idea, but we've seen this before where, oh my God, it's gonna cost just as much. I wouldn't think so, but until we know what those numbers are, it could be the money, that it could be that would be enough to provide us the debt service coverage and could provide substantial savings. But until we get a feasibility study done, we don't know.
Any other questions about police or fire? Moving on to public works, any questions about the cemetery? On page 85.
Only in regards to the cemetery, only just an update question about how the wall is going, and
It's been okay.
it's been fully repaired. I often don't make it. I have relatives over there. I just haven't visited them yet this year. Okay?
Find the new place.
But everything is good there. And then what about the odyssey of locating or contacting living family members whose headstones were damaged? Was that?
Yeah, that's all. Lindsay's been able to reach everyone that she reached.
Okay. And have those been repaired yet? Or
You know,
I have no one in that side of the cemetery anyway.
Those are independent of the town making the repairs, so that's between them.
Okay.
And the county was culpable for all the payment reimbursement, Justin.
I think it was the
Yeah.
school board.
School board, excuse me. Well, school board can. So Orange County says.
Orange County Schools map them.
Okay, thank you.
Engineering services, page 86. Fleet maintenance, page 89. Solid waste, 191.
I do have a solid waste question. I just want to make sure this was not a typo in major accomplishments, but 550 tons of leaves.
Sounds about right, that's consistent with prior years.
10 tons of leaves. Isn't that one truck?
So like, that's a lot of leaves.
I mean, we've got a lot of trees.
Trying to leave 'em.
And I do know that those leaves were distributed locally.
It was.
That's 7 years now, we haven't had to pay to dispose leaves, we've been very lucky, we have recipients.
That's over 1 million pounds.
Yeah.
That's just mind blowing. And I thought it was a typo.
Yeah, Terry made that one of the points of his stormwater update a few months ago about how much waste is removed from the stormwater system by our leaf removal.
But I thought that was over the life of the program, not in one fiscal year. Or is that one fiscal year?
We can double check, this is consistent with how it's been reported in prior years.
Okay, that's just. I mean, yes, we have a lot of trees, but you have to have a lot of residents to participate as well, which I think is also pretty awesome.
There are few houses I ever see without leaves out front at some point or another.
We just let them die, just decompose in the yard. I know Stephanie loves that. My family used to do that. But
But what are those trucks? Okay. I'm pretty sure.
it's just. Mind blowing.
I have like a fee card question. Is it coming up in fees or should I?
Yeah, yes, in the end, we have the fee schedule. That's actually. Alright, and then streets is on page 93. Special appropriations on 96.
I'll take a stab at. Special appropriations, and I think both of these are gonna be for Stephanie. There's $2,500 in the budget for clock maintenance. What does that cover?
Matt may know better than me, I don't know, but there's a contractor that comes in and services.
That's what it covers, the contractor.
And I know that's like the machinery of the clock. I assume we have an agreement with Orange County about the clock?
So the building exterior, Orange County is responsible for, our only responsibilities for the machinery of the clock.
Have they replaced the panes in the cupola?
Find out.
And it also needs a paint job. I know the county's stressed for
That's a frequent.
for cash, but
I asked Peter Sandback recently about next year, if they're gonna start the renovation project.
I think it'll be before the respond.
I was hoping it was gonna be before.
Yeah.
It's not.
well. It's just looking a little shabby, so, and I was particularly concerned about the panes. I have not looked myself to see if they've been fixed. Because that obviously would expose the machinery to the elements, and then that's just not good for our end of the bargain. And then I know the museum hasn't asked for an increase to the 10,000 that we have given them in the past for maintenance of the museum. I will say that the museum historically, no pun intended, wasn't sure at what point to ask for additional funds. And I did speak with the new treasurer. I am the old treasurer and not on the board, but I did speak with the new treasurer who seemed to confirm my recollection that an additional 2,000 or so would be great. Because of kind of the inconsistent needs that arise in regards to maintenance of the building. I think one year they didn't have to spend a lot, but then the next year they definitely had to spend previous years, what was left over from the previous year, plus additional, and I think would be great to just add an additional 2,000 or 2,500 to it. But
Thank you, because if you had
that's-
raised that, I was going to.
But you're on the board,
I
I
know.
probably should do that.
That's right, I can't. Okay.
So
Here we
just
go.
a comment.
But let me ask you a question related to that. How much of the maintenance is, I mean, if we own the building, how much of it do we do ourselves versus $10,000 worth of discretionary things that it's up to the tenant to identify and fix and get reimbursed. Like we should be doing on.
Well, we used to do all the maintenance and it was incredibly time consuming for staff. And most of, the majority of the maintenance were fairly minor things and also running contracts for preventative maintenance for their systems, you know, having their HVAC cleaned and having plumbing leaks fixed and handles tightened on doorways and things like that. But we really don't have a lot of staff for that. And so when we wrote the lease, which we're currently operating under this lease, there was a $10,000 maintenance requirement for funds from the town to the museum to use on those everyday regular preventative maintenance and repairs. If there were to be a larger expense, then our lease allows the museum to come and approach the board and ask for funding for something big. So if it's big structural, if the boiler were to go out, or if we were to have like a major you know, problem with the electrical system or needing, you know, all the light fixtures to be replaced, then under the lease agreement, the museum can come back and ask for additional funds when those situations arise. But right now, our lease stipulates a $10,000 a year maintenance stipend essentially for those just kind of normal daily operations and repairs, which I will say has been an incredible relief to the town staff that they have been handling it and handling it well.
And the relief to the museum, because when
Yes.
on the board, we didn't have to get stuck in your workflow and.
And they have different hours, like their hours at the museum
And
are
we get, I mean,
different.
it's like a visitor that clogged up the toilet, it was not a good thing. That is not the kind of thing you wanna wait for staff to be when you've got kids and
Right.
everyone else.
Yeah, they're open on the weekends and in the evenings sometimes, and we weren't available, and so anyway, I think that it has been working. I have not received any request to add funds. If we did receive that request, I think we would probably need to process it through the lease agreement. To update the lease at least.
Well, not necessarily,
Okay.
because the lease would provide the baseline.
Mhm.
They could always come to the board and ask for more money.
Right, and that is written into the lease where they can come and ask for more money if something arises.
But we never get an end of year accounting of how much.
We have not. And I think that's because I think that the town at the time, the board wanted the museum to have the flexibility, not necessarily spend all 10,000 every year and be put into a position where that money might be threatened if they didn't spend it one year. If the idea was that they could bank the funds, and then in the event that they needed more the next year, that would be available.
And that has happened.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think when we did painting the exterior building, we covered that, the full cost of that, which included a lot of plaster work and some woodwork. There were some roofing expenses that we've covered. There have been things over the years that the town board has elected to cover in addition to the maintenance funds.
Yeah, and in 2019, early 2020 is when they ran into the roof issue. And I think everyone trying to dust off the lease, the old lease, and figure out like who's responsible for what and that sort of thing. And then the museum had someone fixed the roof or didn't do something correctly, and then it had to be redone, and the museum was closed, and then COVID hit. And so I know there were a few years where they carried over significant amounts from one year to another, and that was good because they didn't have to come to the town board.
And justify it every year, exactly. Mhm.
But everything's going up.
Yeah, and that is the concern, is the rise, and it's just an old building and.
Okay, all right. Ready for the next?
Any other questions?
Sorry.
Can you go back?
Yeah, so the community owned trust, and we're just keeping it at 2,500 and not gonna entertain their ask.
That is a board decision.
Maybe is that? Like, did we wanna discuss that at all, or? If that's okay with the outcome. I'm okay with it, I just.
I would be supportive of increasing the 5,000 at one point. I mean, they still want to come in, it began in Hillsborough.
Oh.
Yeah.
His grandfather did.
It was born in Hillsborough. Magnolia Place, that was built to be that, long story short. Anyway.
Cause also, I mean, they don't have any properties here yet, so.
No, that's,
I
we
mean, like, that's the
actually
thing,
had
yeah.
the first ones, and then for a long drama, it ended up not staying in home trust. We lost it, but it was born here in Hillsborough, and they do want to have properties here. I think it would be a good part of the mix of our offering if we did. But I would like to support them. It is not only because of that, but it's a gold standard nationally for a land trust.
Yeah, I guess the challenge that I have is, again, we have no community home trust homes in Hillsborough. And I'd love some, and so I can't justify the doubling the amount that we're gonna give them. And the only thing that's changing is their areas down south, the things that they're managing is increasing.
Well, Babcock historically has worked with them. So I would be shocked if we didn't get any in the Waterstone South. Well, I would be very surprised.
And then with that, though, we get have additional costs
Yeah, it would.
per unit, right?
It would shift from just the flat rate to cost per unit.
Yeah, based on the current allocation, it would cost us about $2,500 per unit per year that they would maintain in town. And the 2,500 has been a placeholder for years. And this is consistent with how we present expansion requests. We didn't have any from anybody else this year, and so that's the only reason it's called out separately. Is normally you have lines there for partnership in homelessness or whoever else. And so this year, nobody else asked for the expansion. And so it wasn't we don't recommend this. It was, you all get to make the decision.
Yeah, and I get, that's why I kind of asked the question is how you all feel about it. I feel like I'm thinking of the same thing that Rob, you're bringing up, is that it's from the letter, it looks like it's an increase to cover the properties they have in a different area. And then instead, as we get properties here, then our contribution will go up. So, so that's a hurdle I have to go up to.
And I would say, 2,500, an additional 2,500, it's a drop in the bucket for them. It's really a drop in the bucket for us. But I feel very principled that until we start seeing some units created in Hillsborough, that I'm fine at keeping it at 2,500. Especially after being on Facebook over the weekend, and they're doing a big celebratory series of posts. I can't remember if it's an anniversary or whatnot, but there's 300 homes. Is one of the things that I took away from that they have been able to either preserve or make affordable or whatnot. And 300 with not one of them in Hillsborough just really grinds my gears.
Well, it wasn't for their last try.
I'm not in favor of giving another 2,500.
Thanks, I just wanted to ask the question before we got.
And right now, it's not in the recommended budget, is that correct?
Correct, it is listed as unfunded in the recommended budget. So it's not in the allocation for the Affordable Housing Fund.
And the Veterans Memorial, this is the last year, right? Cause this was for the.
Last phase.
Okay.
You're our rep on that board, right?
On the veterans.
Yes. And this will be the last payment we make?
I think so.
Before Emily jumps to water and sewer fund, I went back to last year's budget and our last solid waste report, and that figure is correct. We do between 400 and 600 tons a year leaks.
It's wild. We're always punching above our weight.
Before we move on, I just want to confirm, I saw a nodding of heads and that The consensus is to leave the community home trust at the 2,500. Not fund the expansion.
I disagree, I'm for it.
If I were to have to break the tie on that, I would say, yeah. Which one?
Yeah.
Moving on to water and sewer.
You said we're gonna do fees later, right?
Yes. Alright, admin of enterprise is on page 104. Billing and collections is 105. Contingency 107. Faster 108.
I mean, I know we have no clue what's gonna happen, but what are our options for dam repair if FEMA continues its, we don't wanna help anybody? We're gonna lose.
Find the cash, wherever it might be in the system, or debt service.
Not really. One thing that jumps out, the debt service is. Look at 3 million, yeah, 29, this is like, we'll probably add another, I mean, the high. Estimate just from y'all is 3 million, right, on that one.
And that was part of the reason we pushed off Hassel Street and 70A project, because there was a couple other things, but that was a potential $3 million expense or whatever it might be. There were some other things that come up, and so it's like, okay, that's, let's hope those out.
And if we miraculously are able to get funding, then we can pull back on Castle Street.
The math isn't there. I mean, I can't tell you where the arc over the 4 months of trying to keep things in, trying to keep it in, and then
No,
finally it's
I
like.
was saying only if the magic gods of FEMA were to drop cash and pay for it.
Well, even if they pay the $3 million, I mean, we're still looking at, year 3, having our days of cash on hand to be in the low 200s. It's just, that's why we're just take it one year at a time.
Oh, sure, because you said that 3 million is in there, it's in here already, that we are spending it. Okay, so that would help.
It would
The
help.
day, the cash and the. All that. That ratio number.
Yeah, it'd be a big help.
And then utilities admin on 109. Wastewater collection on 111. Wastewater treatment plant on 115. Water distribution on 121. Water treatment plant on 124. West Fork, Inner Reservoir on 132.
We'll go back to that water treatment plant real quick. I think I understand this, but can you explain that SCADA thing? So it's really just, we have a new cabinet. Move all the controls. Things to the new cabinet.
Yes, and Nathan and Jeff will chime in, but if you remember the big blue looking cabinet that was built in the 70s with the original plant. Jeff and Nathan have been planning to get away from that, because if you've ever seen the inside of it, it's like a bird's nest within wiring. So that is the
the cost is is this an estimate from a quote, or is this your best guess on what it will take to sort the bird's nest out?
It's the best guess.
Sounds like it's, absolutely needs to be done, so. Thank you.
I know the cameras aren't for now, they're at 29 also now, but since they're on the list, and there's been conversations and emails, and just, want to really just reiterate it almost felt like the cameras are trying to solve multiple different issues. And just to kind of make sure that it's not like, if there's an issue and we need to know how much water is coming over, is there a more redundant sensor system that we can use? Something that, instead of just trying to use cameras to fix multiple different things, if there's a way, that's the best way, I guess is my question is, you know, I know that like one of the ideas was to have a view of the water and stuff, and to try to drive down phone calls to the plant, I guess, is that part of the idea of that one? But then at if that, the camera is solving that issue, but then it's also trying to solve the issue of water, how much water is coming over the spillway. I just question is it the one solution trying to hit so many things that they really don't fix every issue good, or that makes sense.
I wouldn't call the cameras as fixing issues. We monitor daily through our SCADA system, the level and the release. We also visit the reservoir once a week. This is just an added benefit. And I will say within the last 2 weeks, Nathan, we've received a call from a resident near the reservoir who has been taking photographs and reporting trespassing on one of our access roads. And we have spoken with the PD about it, and they're going to do some additional monitoring out there. But this is just sort of underscoring why we wanted to add some extra layers of monitoring at the reservoir, not really trying to solve any particular problem. We would never measure any type of flow from a camera or anything like that, but just in case, sometimes when the power goes out, our SCADA system opens our gates up all the way. And then we have to go out there and dial them back down. At least that's what's reported through the system. And then we also sometimes lose, after an extended outage, we lose the data. So having a backup camera like that would work under solar power or something for a time being would help us just fact check. Oh, we're seeing that we've lost communications. Visually, what's going on out there? If we can't get there, we would also go out there as well. So that's why we pushed them to FY29. They're not a must-have. They're not a major, it's more of a, we would like to add this. They were recommended by our dam consultant in last year's inspection, and other places have them too, and they project them onto their website, like, oh, here's a view of the reservoir type thing.
The one that I guess and it sounds like this maybe came more from the dam consultant or the inspection, but what I remember is during Chantel, your folks had a hard time getting out there to actually see what was going on, and that was like an idea to try to, and that's where I'm kind of like the redundancy of sensors. Is there something else there that could be done in versus a camera? Because maybe if it's still raining out, are you gonna even see it? And if there's not enough light then out there, how are you gonna see it? So those that one, I think, is where I keep coming back to, is if we're trying to use a camera to fix the issue of having to have somebody go out there in the middle of a tropical storm and get there, is there a better way to make sure that we're getting the right data versus the camera's down, or you can't see it because I think I went around looking at some different cameras on the on the internet. You sent some links, and some of them you can't see anything through the camera. So I think that's like kind of where I'm thinking of, is the camera trying to fit all these different issues and perhaps there's a different way to solve the issue of having to get somebody physically to the plant or to the reservoir to look to see what's happening versus somebody trespassing on property. So that's kind of where, that makes sense. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
I understand that. Well, since this is moved to FY 29 and that estimate was based on meeting with one camera vendor, and I think we're also trying to standardize on that, right, Chris? So there's other opportunities to look for backup and narrow down the scope of work.
Yeah, and then too, I don't know, so it's in FY 29 now, but again, if it's the redundancy sensor on the spillway is an easy fix and it is something that would save somebody from going out in the middle of a tropical storm, then is that something to maybe put in 28, if not in 27? So just some other thoughts that I have.
I will know that. Thank you so much.
Not a question, just an observation, and I know it's not funded for a few more fiscal years, but scroll back up. And that is for next year's fiscal year, FY 28. The fact that we have a forklift still chugging along, made in 1987, is proof that we take care of things. Even if we don't know the mileage because the hour meter is broken. So
It keeps chugging.
So I just want to say, that's impressive. Thank y'all for keeping things moving smoothly, but as I get older, I'm more impressed of things that are older than me, still working well, so.
We are a historic town.
We are a historic town.
When we can.
Any other questions on the water and sewer operating budget? And the stormwater, disaster budget on page 138. Stormwater budget on 139. If you have questions, moving on to the capital improvement plan. Starting with the general fund, any questions about the fire request? Those start on page 146.
Oh, this is when, another thing of the fire, and I don't know. Do they, I mean, I know they do a lot of public stuff, but do they actually look for private dollars? For naming rights and things like that?
Real fire, Tom?
I've never heard of the fire department. I mean, there's like probably 50,000 fire departments in the country, but I've never heard of naming rights. I know they, we call them a volunteer, they're not a volunteer department. I think there's one volunteer.
I know they're not.
So I mean, they're a volunteer, so, you need to go talk to that one rural fire board about that. So.
I was just curious on if they, I mean, I know they get some private dollars and things like that, but.
Yeah, I know they do get donations. I've made a donation to them before, and obviously they've got grants, they've got low interest loans.
Public space 152.
Yeah, but a lot of this is elsewhere, that's where they do get naming rights, and I mean. It's like this inch and this inch, and a lot of private dollars.
I have a question, I guess for Stephanie on, some chatter on social media about basketball courts for Kate's Creek in the future, this year or next year, I think. But is that the only place that has been considered for basketball courts?
Of the property that we own, that's the only place that I would advise basketball courts. If we wanted to look at other locations, we would probably need to look at property acquisition. Yeah, that we investigated the options when we did the Gold Park master plan of adding additional recreation down there, but as you know, Gold Park is located in the floodplain, which is getting increasingly floodier every year, whereas Kate's Creek Park is safer and from that standpoint.
And, Fairview Park, which is a county park, they don't have any plans for.
They have three courts now,
Yeah, they
Yeah,
have
not
some,
adding
not that I know
and
of.
the neighborhood is, they just, it used to be the neighborhood asked for basketball all the time, but it shifted and now they want more soccer instead of basketball.
Well, they also got the movable soccer goals recently.
Yep.
Solid waste on page 162. Special appropriations on 166. Streets on 168. Moving on to the water and sewer fund, water treatment plant, that starts on 174.
I'll throw it out there, I know it's kind of a long shot, but if we ever get to that place with the extra water. As the tank is appropriate and the piping isn't too much. Just wanna consider that, if that's.
Consider to keep it as storage.
I don't know if it would even make a difference. Especially with the piping costs. You said if that's ever possible? Ever.
Page numbers got out of order here. Any questions about the reservoir? Water distribution?
What page are you on?
Yeah, I'm off.
I think your page numbers are about 4 pages different.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm having to do math every time.
I understand, but I got lost.
Hold that page. The best.
So wastewater, well, sorry, wastewater collection is on 174. But I think that's the PDF page and not the PDF page.
The agenda thing, or the.
I see Bellevue Mill
PDF
Interceptor upgrade.
Yeah, that's what I see.
Yeah, that's 174.
Yeah, Bellevue Mill's where it starts.
Bellevue.
Oh, okay, I see, all right. Now, but
No,
now,
175 is Bellevue.
yeah,
No.
174 is on paper.
Oh, okay. The title of the first page is a no page number.
Yeah.
Not one page.
Yeah, it's hard because I think there's some, there's the PDF, the printed version,
Yeah.
and there's the agenda packet, everything's got a different page. So, yeah. So I'm referring to the PDF page, and I'm sorry for any confusion. So far. Okay, and then the wastewater treatment plant, is on 192. And water distribution,
Hang on 1 second, still
sorry.
behind. 192,
Yes.
okay, that is a sewer jetter flush truck. 192.
This is the budget document page, 192. Yes.
Yep, I've got calculators on 192 votes also. You're up there. Okay, then we go to the galvanized water main replacement.
Yeah, so my slides were out of order with the pages of the document there.
I didn't have any questions on this, I just.
And then water distribution starts on 194.
Quick on the, I think. Galvanized water main replacements. Was there any grants funding that might be possible for this? Or is that, the town's gonna have to just do it?
I think we're gonna have to do it because I don't think it falls under galvanized requiring replacement according to their rules. We only have about 1.5 miles of this, and actually the crews have been replacing or abandoning them if there's a nearby water main where they can transfer services. We just did that on US 70, like by Woods Farm and Garden. There was a 2-inch that ran behind the homes there, but the 6-inch and 70, and we just transferred. So I need to get with them and actually see what's left, and that's from our mapping. There could be some more historically that they know about where our maps might not show galvanized.
Okay, thanks.
But if there's funding, we'll go for it.
And then the water treatment plant starts on 206.
Actually, I see 206, we're back on. My book didn't actually have the Adrian Thompson pages.
Right, that project is already, on there. So we've already given the debt on that. so
Yeah,
there wouldn't be-
no, that was a celebratory.
And the reservoir is on 212. Any other questions on the water and sewer fund?
Super quick question, should the tertiary, I'm not able to pronounce that word, any reason not to bring it up a fiscal year?
I will.
It just sounds like it cuts out a lot of staff time and other things that seem to be fairly positive, so I mean,
So there's not a good reason to do it now,
okay.
because we are finding that the phosphorus limits are gonna be going down, so at 0.1 milligram per liter, so it's very, very small. So well, actually what we had planned for that probably isn't going to be enough. We are going through master plan right now to identify exactly what will be needed. I hope to have that master plan completed early, FY 27.
When are we going to know those Falls Lake rules?
Well, that's a good question. We have seen a draft rule and, we actually are better off in the draft rules than we are today. So that's a good thing, but when it actually, it's still gotta go through public comment. So
I
it's
feel like these
months
rules are about ready to go to college at this point.
Yeah.
As long as y'all have been talking about it.
Yeah,
Not any of this to you or Terry or our rep Megan, but,
In 2 years and I'm thinking that graduation ceremony is coming.
but, hopefully we can DEQ moves eventually.
Looking at stormwater, any questions? That's on 216. Any other questions related to the CIP? Before we move on? Before we move on to the next section of decision points, wanted to check to see if the board had any other questions for staff while they're here. If not, we were gonna go ahead and let them, be released for the evening, but just wanted to check in with you before we let them go.
Oh no, Emily, we're not used to a crowd.
No.
Don't see any questions.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming. Of course, if anything comes up in the, as they continue, we'll follow up. Thank you.
Everyone, let's take a quick 5-minute break before we.
There it was. There.
Yes, our
Thanks so much, Laura.
We'll catch up on our.
Yeah, it's great when they're your water. Thank you.
Just. Yeah.
Hey, welcome back, you know. We were on decision.
First off, we wanted to check in on the rates and charges that were in the proposed budget. And just sort of get a sense for the board's thoughts and preferences on those. So starting off, we have the tax rate. See if any questions or comments related to that. Proposed rate is of no change.
I do have a comment, which is I'm very happy that staff gave us a budget without the tax rate changing. But I do think it's at least worthy of consideration by our board as to whether or not looking at future years in deficit and knowing that we're taking funds out of fund balance for this fiscal year after doing it also last fiscal year. Not sure how many other fiscal years we've done that, if it would soften the blow this year to do a 1 to 2 cent rate change. Especially if we're going to need to do it in future fiscal years, that perhaps it will soften not only the blow to the general fund this year, but then also potential increases in the future fiscal years.
I would agree. I'm. As much as I want to keep it revenue neutral, and I'm glad to see what it looks like, revenue neutral. We're too high risk coming down the line. And I think this is our best way of softening. And I think through the year. And I think it puts us in a better position if we find ourselves, we can't do anything and we're going to, the cuts would be less horrific.
I also agree, and hence I asked Emily for a breakdown of what a 1 cent increase and a 2 cent increase would look like for the summary. I know that without a tax increase, we're at 54% for the fund balance in FY 29. Which it seems really close to that bottom number, that 50% that we want to try to stay at. And I did like with the 2% increase, but I said 51% at 1 cent, which 51 or 57% is good also at 1 cent increase, but 61 looks pretty nice. It just a little, I'd like to get your all ideas of is 1 cent, no, is 2 cents maybe really doing.
I would do 1.5 to 2, just, I think if we're going to have another disaster. It's the likelihood of us not having anything in the next fiscal year is probably 0. I want to be able to, for us to have cash and be again. I don't like us just skirting, just getting by. I feel we're too high risk right now. I don't feel we're in a very good position if we have 3 years of disasters. I don't know how we would handle it.
Yeah, and then there's like the train station, right? Like that's already increasing costs.
Exactly.
Like, can't remember exactly how much it's increased from the start, but
it was 7, we were supposed to have 7 million, it's what, 10.1, 10.2?
yeah, and it's
it's
just
only
gonna get worse, right? Like, and then also like, just, I think you said that, I wrote down smoothing the paint. Like you said it a different way, but just in FY 29, if we already see something, increase coming, like, it's gonna be a lot for the residents, I think, to all of a sudden be like, drop it on them.
I agree, I don't want to drop monster. No, because it's not sustainable. People can't absorb it. It's the wrong time of year. And it's hard enough, even when it occurs at the right time.
Thank you. I've heard three opinions. Rob, what are your thoughts on? That's increase.
I'm not really for it. I think a tax increase in this fiscal year.
Hey, Rob.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Weird.
So. I'm not really, advocating for, I wouldn't advocate for a tax increase this fiscal year. It's my gut tells me, I think with the increase in stormwater, water, additional stormwater fee, I think that's gonna be a lot. So I'm feeling not super supportive of it, but I can be convinced of anything.
Okay, may I ask a couple clarifying questions? One is the manager's budget didn't recommend the tax increase, so I'd like to hear your comments. Then I would also like to know, do we have practical examples of what that would mean to homes valued at $400, $500, $600, $7,000 in time? What's the practical effect going to be to residents?
Sure, I'll take a stab at some of the questions. So first of all, I just want to commend the board for having this discussion, because we know there's like lots of units are just saying like, we're gonna do everything we can to avoid this and kick the can down the road, and there's not a right answer. You know, it's like whether it's whether in the recommended budget or proposed budget was like, and I think I stood and said, I'm comfortable not doing anything this year. Who knows what goes down in the future? So all the points that were made are valid. So those are good points. Trying to hold the line for a year and then monitor for another year closely. Sometimes having a constraint, like again, from staff and operations, you know, we know things are tight. Get better clarity on how things are going and motivate us even more. I'm always so impressed with the employees are always doing a great job and just, you know, like not adding staff and things like that. If we don't raise taxes this year, I feel there's not as much time. This smoothing recommendation and concern is a good one. That's valid. If the numbers don't change much a year from now, it'll be hard to avoid doing a tax rate increase at that. So it's the argument that was made about protecting our savings for disasters and emergencies that are inevitable. I think is a great one. We use the term internally, the restaurant menu approach to budgeting, and it helps the community if you can, whenever we can point our finger, like when we did the street repaving surge, like this is what taxes are going up for the street repaving, whenever we can make that connection to do that. So I think that argument is an additional point for the restaurant menu approach, whether it's this year, if you make an adjustment, or going forward. You know, we already sort of did that with train station, fire and whatever like that. So I think the board has a lot of flexibility, so I can't steer you either way is a good approach. So I wasn't trying to skirt the issue, but that's genuinely how I feel.
Was your budget taking into consideration, there will be a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November that will limit property taxes?
I thought about that for a couple months. And as far as going through the process, and early in the budget process, it was painful. Because I know, you know, we did the small rate increase, we went through the reval year and did the big jump to try to catch up with all the things we've been doing. And I was like, I so, you know, want to be able to deliver, for us to be able to deliver a financially responsible budget, fiscally responsible budget that didn't have a tax rate increase just even for a year. But then when that bomb got dropped, it was like our back against the wall that could we be missing an opportunity if we don't do something to protect ourselves, which is the argument that it's a good one going forward. Would I regret that going forward? I know when Matt did his analysis on comparing one of the 12 different versions and where we would be about the same place going back to 2015. Yeah. So, but it's just hard to predict the future and, you know, and what's going forward, so there's always risk. I think I made the comment, during the presentation that, without knowing, what's gonna get passed, that I think the likelihood statewide for cities and counties, there's gonna be more tax rates more often, but smaller amounts to stay in there. Because it's gonna put everybody's back against the wall, and you can't wait for, oh, we have a major need, or we have to respond to a disaster. Sorry, too bad, the formula doesn't work out, you can't do that, which I think is part of your concern.
Quick question, like, in the message, is it only for the water and sewer operations? And actually, you meant to correct me if I'm wrong. Did you use inflation at 6% for water and sewer, but for the general fund, a different inflation number? And I feel like I've read this a couple times,
I
and
know.
I'm like mixing it up in my head, so that's why I'm like, if there's any clarification.
Right, so departments sort of provide the estimates from what they're seeing from either their experiences or the estimates they're getting from vendors. The 6% was a number that Raftellus had provided, based off of what they were seeing, kind of industry wide.
Okay, so, but for the general fund, is there an inflation of?
So I don't have, I guess, an industry like standard
Okay.
for that, so I think, we're sort of assuming sort of just general like inflation.
Okay, cause that's, I mean, that's part of the concern of not raising taxes is all of a sudden inflation is even higher, so it's just another thing besides like, as I said, the 50, getting close to 50% in year 3, the jump in our debt service, and then also the unresolved funding caps too, like those, I think those are like the big 3 that like, you know, what could happen in the next 2 years to make that, all those things even worse, because we're not starting until fiscal year 29 on those. Anyway, that's, thank you, and wasn't sure if it was gonna be an easy answer, I just remember reading 6% somewhere, so.
To answer Mayor Mark's question, the 2% increase in staff last check math. 2%, a 2-cent tax increase is the equivalent of an additional $100 on a $500,000 home. And then for each additional $1,000, just tack on another $20. So 600 would be 120, 700 would be 140. Additional.
A year.
2% for 2 cents. An additional $100 for a $500,000.
And if we push this off, like next year or wait even till fiscal year 29, then it just. Oh, it's balloon, for an increased tax.
Double, probably. Yeah, double or triple.
And so just for the benefit of the public, as we consider this option that we do a 3-year budgeting plan. This coming year, we're doing okay fund balance. Next year, we're doing okay fund balance, but fiscal year 29, it really balloons. So we're helping to inoculate our fund balance from being dangerously low in 2 years. Is that a reasonable summary of what we're considering here?
I mean, when you think about if we were not public, if we were private, it would be, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's considered to be finance 101. Or budget 101.
The county's recommended an increase. Also.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, so.
I thought it was, what, 4 or 5?
Yeah, I was gonna say
I mean,
3
it's-
something.
3.75 is their initial recommended increase, and that's largely tied to debt service. They're having some additional conversations with their workshops for other funding.
That's what I heard. I thought it was gonna end up being like 4 or 5, the death sentence, but maybe I misunderstood.
I think they have a lot of decisions to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of their debt and fund balance, they're in a lot worse position, I think, that we've.
But we do not want to get to where they are.
So, just because I feel like for the most part, we've gone along with staff's recommendation, related to tax rate what's the process to do? Is it here? Is it in the future when we make that change? Or if we want to make that change?
I mean, the board can provide that direction at any time. You can do that this evening, and if there's deliberation, however you would need to do it, and, you know, just direct staff, we want to do X if there's something different. And then staff will go back, we'll update those numbers along with whatever other changes the board directs this evening and come back to you with the budget ordinance, you know, and then I think, Emily and Josh always do a good job of saying, here's what's different, here's what the numbers are, and then incorporate that in the budget ordinance for your consideration on budget adoption.
I would like for us to go with 2 cents.
I agree.
I would go 2 cents also.
Well, that's a majority, so.
I would like, I know we went through all the rest of this too, like, when I was personally thinking about this, one of the things that I hadn't said yet, and I appreciate the town did such a good job of trying to reduce so many other areas that when I tried to look through, I'm like, okay, what is just discretionary? What can we possibly, and there was not, we don't, it wasn't there.
We don't have,
I'm like, where's another dollar, you know?
that's what I did too.
Yeah.
We don't have it.
Yeah, like if you try to take out all these other ones, I'm like, no, that just doesn't do it.
And I keep going back to, you know, I keep it, we're gonna find 3 million for the dam. Really, I can't find 30,000. I mean, I know you can pull a Benjamin out of a Lincoln like there is nobody's business, but
I really appreciate the work you all put into that.
Well, thank you. You just echoed the conversation that we've all had, you know, many, many times about, you know, just going, what are we missing? What are we missing? What can we do? And then, but once again, kudos to dozens of members of the team for refining what they do.
no, it's tight. I mean, it's tight. I'm impressed with, every year I'm impressed with what's done, but I'm uncomfortable.
We're ready to move on to stormwater?
I think so. Any questions or comments about the stormwater fee increase of $15 per year?
This is the end of the sequence, right? This year.
It's the last of the 3-year phased increase.
What did I see in there, but I feel like there's like a $3 something moving forward?
Right, well, so nothing's in the budget, this is the last increase that was in the proposed budget, the $3 is sort of our roughly what we need in every year to break even. So I think going forward, we'll have to look at when we need to do an increase and what those increases will look like, but sort of $3 per year increase is roughly a break even. Seeing no comments, we will proceed with the budget as currently recommended. Water and sewer charges, 7.5% increase for both. Any questions or comments?
I was pleased to see that we're going to end up staying with what we have after I can't talk tonight, tell us. What they presented in. As much as it is, every option has benefits and flaws, but I really do think what we're doing is the least, because I think the other misleads. Our residents on what the true cost of water, because the cost is not billing. It's like everything else is sort of. It's incremental and it's not. So I was actually pleased to see that we will stay.
I'll say that I do favor a change on the water sewer charge. I don't think it's currently transparent. I don't think that folks understand that that's the cost of what it costs to serve their property. I know that I know that by ratcheting down the rate from 2,500 to 2,000. That achieved a goal. I was hoping that the goal would be, personally, when I really pushed for that, was that we would eventually move, because it will be apparent how opaque our rates are, as a result. Maybe the experiment backfired, in pushing it in that direction, but I would like to see that at some point change. But there's gotta be others who wanna see it change as well.
I mean, if we could show the true cost. Which is what I was aiming for. A true fixed cost. Which is more than just. Billing. But a true fixed cost and then a true incremental, I would love to see that. But that's nothing Raftalis showed us that at all. It was artificial.
Well, in my opinion, it's all kind of made up to begin with.
Well,
I mean, it's kind of made up how we're doing it now.
But I mean, there is a fix, if nobody purchased water, if we can model that, and that's fixed cost. If nobody purchased water, what would be the cost to run the system? And divide it up. And then you've got your incremental.
Okay, and so the recommendation then is to follow Raftalis's recommendation because we just changed the model and the bonds are based on that methodology. We're gonna wait a year or two and then we're gonna agree. And continue these other options, Matt, to get to what you're saying and Kathleen, what you're saying as well. In the future. The not too distant future.
Right, yeah, the plan is to continue with the current rate structure and then, if we have the model built, so we can certainly refresh it as our, population and demographics change.
Yeah, thank you. The only thing harder than transportation planning is water and sewer rate planning. It's very complicated and, hard to do, so thank you.
So we will continue with the 7.5% rate increase, that's in the proposed budget. Any questions or comments related to the proposed fees and charges schedule?
I had a question about, so one individual fee and then these in general. One of them was the special event permit rush fee. Is that in addition to the other one? Is this like, I'm late, I gotta pay them both now? Okay, just, okay, good. The second part is, am I looking at the right part in the general fund revenues? Where license permits and fees, that's the same line that we're talking about, right? It stays pretty low. And I'm just wondering, for other municipalities. When our budget or rep is what it is, what percentage of fees is that, are we charging, I guess? Like, we're not showing any increase here over 3 years. But we know labor is going up, we know all these other things are going up, like, I'm not sure why that one's not, and it's a lot of people power to do the stuff that we've got on this list. So that's my general comment on fees is, do we have some kind, maybe a comparison to industry standard? I'm not
Thank
sure.
you, because every year I bring this, that our fees are really low compared to elsewhere.
Yeah.
In a lot of areas. And now, for our nonprofits, I don't wanna overburden them. But I don't want to abuse our developers, but we give them a sweetheart feel. And our fees, they're not that.
Yeah, that's just my general comment. I don't have any specific thing that I can point to, but it's. That's when I saw the same number across the line, like.
So I won't speak for Emily on the estimation going forward, but you all may recall, we went up significantly on a lot of our planning related fees last year.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
So that's really reflective of trying to let the market absorb that and see what that looks like before we go back. one of the big components is, we don't control building permit fees and all those associated. And they are going up significantly,
Okay.
in Orange County. And so that's one of the things that you don't see it reflected in our budget, but that's part of the cost of doing business.
Right.
And so, you only see really a piece of the picture in our budget in terms of the fees. So we've gone up, we're catching up to market there. It's incredibly difficult to compare apples to apples across jurisdictions in our planning and building fees, because we've tried. And there's not a good, basis for that. So, that's kind of where we're at. We did big increases. We're, kind of catching up. We're cognizant that the county is also increasing, on the same type of, fees. So we just want to be aware of that.
Now, for, our payment in lieu for sidewalks, we've been sticking at 125 for a while. And every time they come up in development reviews, they look low. Shouldn't we be higher by now, given the cost of construction?
125% is still the standard. You have to have to
Okay.
quote Bob, rational nexus.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so that's, that's what everyone else is doing. That keeps us
okay,
kind of stay.
understood.
I think the legislature has even considered or discussed reducing that percentage, saying 125 is too high. But of course, as inflation goes up, your
Yeah,
dollar goes up because 125% of 100 is more than 125% of 50. So
it's just, we've seen such huge jumps where 25%, which sounds so big in practice, was like last week.
Just to, Commissioner, just to comment on the revenues being flat, almost all of the permits and fees and licenses that we charge are fairly, they vary greatly from year to year, just depending on either when like a development applies for something or how many folks run out the park shelters or whatever it may be, like it really just goes up and down, so we try and get a number that we think we're gonna hit. It can vary from year to year a lot, just so.
There was actually, I might have missed this in my notes, but, documents and maps. I'm not sure how often you actually even got requests for this, but just when I've had, drawings printed and stuff like that, tell you, it's a lot more than what we're charging. Like that just seemed like I'm almost thinking like charging more, and if people really need it, can't they use their computer to save on printing and all that, or if there's one here for color 11 by 17 for $2, just. I feel like the market is charging a lot more than $2.
If you go to Kinko's, you will be paying the whole.
You're also paying some profit in there.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
we are not allowed to.
Yeah,
compete
that's
in the
true,
commercial market. The law says that we can recover our administrative costs.
And that's it?
So there may be a little bit of wiggle room there, but not profit.
No, yeah. It really.
And you
Any other questions about fees?
lately of printers.
I have some questions. I have a couple questions about fees. So what happened to all the engineering service fees? Did those get?
So they've been smushed together with planning as we're trying to work towards a one-stop, for development. This year we'll look through stormwater and see, which touch points we can reduce, and so it's part of our process.
That's,
The dollar amount's not going down in aggregate, it's just, instead of paying Bryant one thing and Shannon one thing, paying Dakota for both of them. Right.
and that's kind of what I thought, but I didn't see what I assumed that. I think the special event rush fee should be $100. I think, the justification that staff has to scurry around and do all these things in the last couple hours before, the special event permit needs to be done, that fee should be more, in my mind.
I agree.
I also think the, public space fees, the shelter fees and our multi-field, fees should go up too. So now those are $20 and $40 for a 3-hour shelter for resident and non-resident. And then, the field is $20 an hour or $40 an hour. Those are far below industry, kind of standards, and I think
What does Chapel Hill charge?
for a shelter that size,
Uh-huh.
50 and 85.
Okay.
It's a 4 hour block, but it's, nobody uses a shelter for 4 hours. I like the 3 hour thing. Fields, for a grass field that size, they're up into at least double that, it's by 60 and I think 60 and something else. And so I would recommend just a nominal fee of maybe, 30 to 50, from 20 to 40. But I don't think we've, correct me if I'm wrong, ever increased those since we've had a shelter or a field.
I can't
I could be
remember.
wrong, but
I can't remember.
it seems like it's lower than it should be.
I do agree, maybe going up a little bit on those, maybe not Chapel Hill rates. But just a little bit. I do just have a question that just dawned on me, which is I just want to make sure that for things that touch a legal component and Bob is brought in, like with the Board of Adjustment, appeals and SUP permits and whatnot, are those fees adequately taking into account our legal services?
I'm not sure how much the fees are, but I can virtually assure you that I'm costing the town more than the fee they're collecting when I attend the Board of Adjustment.
Well, the BOE or BOA appeals is $400.
Yeah, if a hearing takes 2.5 hours, I mean, it doesn't cover the cost.
We need to cover the costs.
We're shortening the meeting.
There's this due process thing.
And this is also a question for Matt and Bob also, but like, is there any way or should we even think of this? But is there a way, for example, like when we just did the development agreement for the property in Meadowlands? Is there a way for us to recoup Bob's time in doing all of that? I mean, we're ultimately, we obviously have interest, so your time shouldn't be completely billed to the applicant, but we're also helping them out significantly to get them through a process. So I'm just curious how municipalities usually tackle that kind of thing, or do they?
Some do, some don't, some have it built into the fee structure already. Some I think just, it's a pass-through cost that the developer pays the cost and as part of the fees that are required.
I do want to make sure that we recoup as much of that as possible.
Yeah, one thing I will say about those development agreements, typically it is the developers council who prepares the first draft, which is the most time consuming part of it. And these days, they're very similar. Boilerplate, yeah.
So then you're trying to catch the really egregious stuff.
Right.
Or, oh, sorry, that was for another development agreement. Let me go get the one I meant for you.
I have a question about the streets, when I'm looking at all the permitting.
What page you?
Oh. Let me look, 230. So like the driveway permit, the new maintenance, not with new construction, the utility cuts. Failure to repair, those. I don't think we've raised those and I don't know when.
What are you looking at?
Streets.
230.
Okay.
It's 234.
Can't you do it again for me?
It's 231 for me.
Yeah, I only know the paper number. You know, failure to obtain a permit. Failure to make a warranty repair, you know, 150.
Yeah, we just are asking to raise, because you're late for a permit for an event.
Yeah, and then,
On par with minimal driveway.
exactly.
I don't think we've raised them sometime, if you all want to see us. do that we can.
I think
It
it
would be nice to know how often are remitted the fees first, like, are we trying to encourage people to be more proactive? Especially with the failures, but it would be, I think in order to make a decision, we would also need to know how often. Are we receiving receipts for those fees?
Well, I think failures that you do, you know, when there is a $50 difference between the permit and the failure to obtain the permit. That's not that big of a difference, so I mean, what? That's like, what does it matter? It's $50.
Oh, I do think that you are right, because when we look at our
Well, no, they
extensive
would be an additional.
noise violations,
Right.
Yeah, the noise violations are.
we go all the way up to $250.
So, Commissioner English is correct. So if you are paying a failure to obtain a permit, you're paying the permit fee and failure fee. So it's not 100, it's not 150, it's 100 plus 150.
Okay, at least, okay,
And then if
that's,
you go another 14 days, it's another 100.
okay, I misunderstood how that
And
worked.
we can pull the data. I'll tell you, the utility cut permit is the most frequent one. Those were huge when fiber was in town. That's gone down significantly.
Man, Google could have.
Other than
Yeah.
that, we may have a couple
We
of
didn't have
months.
it higher then.
Mhm. You know, Bright Lake's going, Bright Speed, whatever's coming out.
I know we're all bopping around with the fees, but I would suggest that we raise the fire lane parking violation fee
Yes,
I
from
was just gonna ask
$25 to $100.
Absolutely.
Or maybe
I was even
more,
more.
within statutory
Are we enforcing that?
Well, that was gonna be my question.
I see that
Is that
all the time.
when I think I asked this question when I first started, I was like, why are these so low? But there was a reason, and I can't remember what, that she had, Hampton had at that time, so.
and also.
So it's like
the
handicap.
violation.
Handicap parking for $100, like, I feel like that was when I.
That's
Is
a standard.
it
Wow.
only, I mean, I feel like that's,
I've seen them higher.
I feel like I've seen them a lot higher too. The fire lane, $25, like,
Yeah, fire
Park
lane.
there all day.
Yeah,
Just looking online, it says that fines typically range from 50 to 100 plus for standard fire lane infractions. So.
now fire lane, we want to encourage that to be free, not.
what about handicap?
The fire lane to be free, not the violation.
Right,
Yeah,
the fire
I
lane.
wanna make sure you're.
Yes, no.
what about the handicap one? Like. $100 seems pretty low when someone's driving around with a wheelchair and they can't park because someone's in there.
Even if we don't actively charge people for these
Yeah.
things.
The maximum penalty is $250, so violations carry penalties ranging from 100 to 250.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
But the
Yeah, I don't know
budget
how
is a
often.
statement of values, though, so like if it's on our fee schedule, then it shows. That blocking a fire lane is worth more than $25.
Yeah,
Yeah. If a fire truck can't get there and save a life,
exactly.
there you go. You know, if we can't have parking for all of our residents.
Any other suggestions? Okay.
Well, some of the tampering fees, I think are. Well, I like seeing the hydrant tampering of the 3,000 civil penalty, but I look at. Even the meter tampering of 350, 500, and I would still raise it.
Let's not touch that one, because I
Okay.
think there's some legal issues with it. Leave that as is.
Never mind.
I do have a question about it though. Why is it only a civil penalty? I mean, if you're tampering with a meter, is that not theft?
Well, if you prosecute it criminally, but if you prosecute it criminally and you collect that fine, it's not yours to keep, it goes to the school district.
What?
But those kinds of fines in violations of local ordinances get paid to the school board, not to the town. So like traffic tickets, speeding.
Noise
tickets,
ordinance
all that
violations.
kind of stuff. I mean, that goes, if you prosecute it criminally.
I was gonna say the handicap parking's the same way since it's a state ordinance.
Yeah.
It would not be a local municipality, penalty.
We'll still be more money too, so.
You learn something every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there've been some state Supreme Court cases, well, dealing with that for years ago.
Okay.
Right, just to confirm what I heard here, we're looking to increase, let me know if I missed anything, we've got the special event rush fee, increasing that to $100. And then there was talk about the park shelters and fields, I'm not sure if I heard an exact number on that, or if you're asking staff to go back and just revisit it.
I don't have to come up with that number. I just feel like those fees have never been increased, and I want to at least keep up with, inflation and just, the general sort of increase of cost over the years. As opposed to, waiting 10 years and then we're left double the fee because we haven't kept up with really what it's truly, what the true cost is.
Okay. So we'll look at that one and come back with a proposal for that. And then the Board of Adjustment fee, I think we're looking at increasing that to. I think we can probably investigate that a little.
We'll review that.
Yeah. And then the street fees. We'll increase in those as well, and then the fire lane and the handicap fee. Did I miss anything? All right.
Let me ask one quick question with like roll-up cards. So a household or an individual can have up to 2 cards. And we charge them for that second card. Okay. I thought you said that, but then it's, and there's something else that we do.
And then you're gonna clarify in the budget about replacement of damaged carts in the fee schedule.
Yes, so, I think Emily attached to, your, information packet, the proposed language that clarified that, it's not in this schedule. It was a separate attachment.
Okay. This is right, this is more of a swag thing. I think we should have smaller trash containers than our recycling bins. To encourage people to recycle more. And have.
That's an interesting concept.
Except for one, there's one flaw with that.
Yeah.
The flaw is our recycling only takes certain plastics.
Oh, they'll take it all, you put it in the cart, take it,
No, they won't.
they will take it.
Yeah, they might not like it when they get it.
No, you get nasty brands.
Yeah.
I have, both of my neighbors have gotten some
Yeah,
nasty
we
brands
get an audit of their,
because they had the wrong plastic in there. So, things that other, like Durham. will
But that's
pay-
not Orange County for educating basically, more and doing more community outreach about that. I agree with you 100%. I know that, yes, people are putting a lot of things in their recycling bins that, they can't process down the line. But some of that is because there's not enough community engagement going on.
But there's also, but it's also because the manufacturers are not using the recyclable enough plastics, so you get.
market for it.
Yeah, it's the market forces that now Durham can take different ones, but it's just it's more than just people under our control.
Just some comment was kind of inspiration.
Don't think about it. I know of communities that have smaller trash disposal things than recycling bins.
I've never heard that or thought of it, but it's an interesting idea and Megan and I will take
It
it.
drives me crazy when my neighbor has two of them out there. And I can't even fill up, one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, good lord, I'm exploding every day.
Emily, where are we?
All right, we are now, so do you want to check in on each of the funds, in particular, starting with stormwater fund, just want to ask if there were anything that we didn't talk about already that you wanted, that you had questions about, or additional information that you need to make a decision on the stormwater fund before adoption. All right, seeing none. On the water and sewer fund, we've sort of already talked about the rate structure analysis, but just want to double check that if there's any additional information that you need with regards to the presentation that Raftell has had, or moving forward with that. So. Seeing none. Any questions on the water and sewer fund that we did not answer tonight, or they need additional information on before adoption? Okay. For the general fund, we have a couple of discussion topics. Eric, I'm not sure if you want to discuss the fire station.
Sure, if everybody's thumbs up on Chief Cave's proposal to first explore a reno, and we've already got to 75,000, if that's what it's gonna be, then I think we've got the money in the budget, so that was just a direction from the board.
May I ask a question about that? So our new fire station is awesome. It's also very large. How is it even, without spending $75,000 to answer this question, that the footprint of the existing downtown fire station is tiny? Can that ever be serviceable 20 years into the future? Given the size of trucks and the needs and things like that? I would hate for us to hem ourselves in and waste $75,000 on a site that is really small, constrained, and things like that. Forget the money aside. I understand the secondary question of cost benefit of renovating the existing site versus moving forward with the site that we've been planning to do for a while, but is there a showstopper in that whole equation that would make us not want to spend that $75,000?
I'll follow back up with Chief Cave and ask him that specific question. Is there a showstopper? And then from a 20+ year window. So I'll share that with the board when I get it. From prior discussions with him in the past, that adding the Waterstone station has really freed up, created more capacity for having equipment and things, so it's put less pressure on the downtown station. So that's more of an overarching response from what I've had, but I'll ask him those questions and share that with the board, and if that's enough, we just invite him to a meeting to come talk. So we're not ready to go sign a contract. I think we're months away from wanting to go ahead and have the staff time to partner with Chief and Orange Rural on whichever direction we go, but I'll get back to that.
So you don't, is that adequate for what we need to do tonight?
Yes.
Yes or no on the 75,000?
Right, well, you already budgeted that.
Or this year.
Yeah, I think it's it's already in this year's budget because we're planning on looking at that one. Again, the 75,000 was just general discussion points that we had with other consultants on a new building. So, but wait, currently we think we have funds to cover a reno feasibility study, but we're not gonna do anything. We'll come back to the board first, give you more information and say, hey, we're ready to go. Plus, the Orange Rural Board needs to weigh in on it as well. They may have concerns, they may have other options, so.
Yes. Other comments about the fire station?
I mean, I love the idea of keeping it down, directly downtown, because I do think it has such a, community engagement component to it, and I love to see that interaction. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen, a little bit further north, and I think you could also create that, that there also. but there's something about it being right in the middle. I'm really curious if they can retrofit it to, you know, to kind of today's standards. Without doubling the, you know, or without it being a lot more than what we can afford. But I do like the idea of keeping it where it is.
I like the idea from a public engagement, but from an insurance maintenance, and as is given the growth and such, I think it does community a better service if it is north.
But I thought one of the points on moving the station or church in Chief Kate's proposal, and I think since we've heard, and that we've heard since opening the Waterstone one, that moving north actually would negatively impact the ISO ratings.
I thought it would improve it because the radius would extend for more people, you know, actually.
Within Orange Rural's service area, but not town residents.
Town residents who would remain the same, they're still covered.
Fire insurance ratings are a very misunderstood process. I like physically done them myself and went to school for them and all that. So when we say negatively affected insurance, I'll explain more about that in a second. So what Chief Cade's comment was that there's a 1.5 road mile radius on your ladder truck. So he said we're probably maximizing our points with the downtown station, the current locations. It covers like the West End and the Mills. Once we move it up here, that starts pulling that out. And I think that was one of the things that I don't remember if it made it in the memo. I said, oh, but we'll pick up other areas in the north. But he's going, yeah, that's outside of the town limits.
Okay.
So there's all sorts of trade-offs. It's almost impossible to find where you're gonna put a fire station. So we haven't had a whole lot of choices, you know, so there's pros and cons to everything. If you did move it to right next door, would we lose points on, there's like certain formulas and the number of points for, you know, aerial apparatus coverage. So, but sometimes like, oh, you just lost, I'm gonna make up a number, 1.75 points. That doesn't mean your fire insurance rating is gonna go down. You know, so, but that's where you really get, because they have all these other thresholds. Are you really close to a threshold? But the important thing is, once you get below a 5, it doesn't matter for residential. You go from a 5.4, we could be a 1, the best in the country. It's made 0 difference on homeowners insurance coverage, no difference at all. And so it only makes a difference on commercial, and that goes like one level at a time. So I think as far as, you know, anyway.
Okay.
So thank you.
And when we were doing the fire insurance testing and I was out there turning the hydrants and cut the water off to one of my town commissioners who was taking a shower. And I didn't get fired. But I was literally out there as we were at the ISO and you got the gauges on the hydrants and everything. So that's how hands-on I was on doing it. So that was a long time ago.
Next up, we have the nonprofit partnership discussion at the meeting in April. We talked about increasing the funding for nonprofits to $110,000. But we still need to decide which agencies to fund and at what funding level.
Good. Thank you. How would the board like to proceed with these? One at a time, perhaps?
That would be.
General
Yes, no?
comment.
And as made also,
Wait, what did you say? My general comment was, in a deficit budget that we have in front of us is taking a. I don't know how easy this is to calculate out, but we've got like 2 organizations asking for 13% increases over their previous years. But with a deficit budget, I'm wondering if maybe we're not gonna go above 10, or we're not gonna go above some number is maybe just a way to start, is just a proposal to.
See, to me, since we know one of them is well-funded, flopping it, I don't feel impending or compelled to fund it.
Yeah, and I'm not, like, in my chart, I don't have them all funded, so.
See, and so in my chart, I've removed two of them and left the rest.
And your point is well taken, and to my ears, what I heard you say is that in a deficit situation that we're in, we should maybe look at freezing levels as opposed to increasing levels.
Well, maybe
Or something similar.
something similar, like maybe like, we're not gonna do about 10% increases or something, but I guess maybe it's not a blanket statement, but, because we're gonna deliberate all these, but.
Any other general comments before we maybe go down the list and I arrive at a number?
Got a general comment regarding the Food Fitness Opportunity Research Collaborative. They do great work. I, very much supportive of it. They weren't even on our radar last year. You know, they came to us mid-year, for a gap, fund, which we, generously did. But to come back and expect us or ask us to pay that full amount, I think is too much. And just like we're gonna have to make some very tough choices and not be able to, to fund everything that we would want. They and any other nonprofits are gonna have to do the same.
But except there's a little trickier. They lost. They're not coming through.
Hear me out.
Okay.
So I'm not saying don't fund them, but my recommendation is fund them at $25,000, which is about half of what they're kind of looking for, but I don't think it's right for it to expect it all to come from us. And that it may mean that, there's a reduction in some programs and services, but at the same time, it's a tough year for everybody. And I don't want to set up an expectation that we're funding them at that level every year. I think it needs to be, we just need to be clear that this is unsustainable. We cannot, we can't take the budget that we had last year and in previous years at about 48,000, round up to 50. Then all of a sudden we're looking at doubling it. That's just not, it's just not sustainable. So that's just my thought on the forefront. Again, they do amazing work, and I'm not trying to discount that in any way. I just think it's a big ask for a little town.
Any other general comments? Okay, would you like to go down the list and say in or out and then negotiate lunch? Because there's more requests than we have. Okay, Emily, do you mind if I?
Yeah, go for it.
Manage that conversation? Okay, Disability Awareness Council. How many?
Just want to go the table.
Yeah, or just, let me know in or out.
Out.
Okay, out.
And
One in.
so I have them in for $5,000. Again, they come to us last year?
Yes.
They came to us last year and we didn't fund them. It's the kind of second year. My biggest thing with them is I don't feel like I really understand how many Hillsborough residents would benefit and get served from them. But I do feel like they, I think he clarified that they are in Hillsborough, right? Over here. Oh, no, that's right, Chapel Hill.
Southern Human Resources.
That's right. Sorry. But anyways, so small enough. Choose to.
Any other comments about that? I have one comment, that is their projected budget. They're really asking us to pay instead of 4.5%, which is kind of the Hillsborough share of the population, which kind of they're asking for like 30%. It was not aligned with the customary funding mechanism for the county. And I think I did the math, it was like 3,800 would be 4.5% of their budget to build that technology. That's all I know.
I will say, last year, I was in favor of funding them something. And I think part of it is. I think that they need to get better about articulating. How. What they do impacts Hillsborough residents and, you know, the disability. You count all folks with disabilities, it'd be the largest minority group. So we know inevitably the work that they do could impact residents. And I don't know if we can expect additional service or outreach in Hillsborough with no dedicated Hillsborough funding. What is interesting, thank you, Sarah, for pulling that big minutes book, as I was researching some stuff regarding the tourism board, it was very clear that when the ADA passed, they were a big part of helping the town really kind of implement the Americans with Disabilities Act. I think some funding could be good to encourage, maybe more in line with our funding principles. But for 18,000, definitely out. Is it the 3,000 some odd dollars or the 5,000? I think we could probably haggle about, but I think at least an acknowledgement would be good. I just don't think at 18,000, that's doable based on the presentation that we received. And the supporting documents that we received.
I think that, I know I said no right away, but that was definitely 18,000. My concern is also is the limited programming and access for Hillsborough residents. But again, like, as we just mentioned, Matt, there's so many people that use their services, and to learn how to use these different programs, it does sound valuable. It's just, yes, accessibility for Hillsborough residents is my biggest hang up on this one. But perhaps a small amount more in line with the population, maybe that does get us access. Like, I've entertained an amount.
I mean, yes, disability, I mean. The stats are staggering. I'm not convinced they are the group that is best positioned to serve the disability, because it depends on what those disabilities are. I didn't hear that necessarily they reach the ones where, you know, in terms of the classes of disability type. Not sure from what I understand, I'm not sure they serve. And I don't believe that they're positioned to access, and even in the best of all possible worlds, I don't think they would be positioned for folks to access. So it's one of those population, meaning services, yes, it's sort of like, are they the right vehicle? No. Is there a role for what they do? Absolutely. But where they're located, all of that, I think they would thrive better focusing where they are rather than the expansion. I'm not saying that our folks don't need it, they do need, but I don't think it's a good match. So I would not. I wouldn't put funding there.
So what I hear is 1 no and 3 somethings.
I don't know, Kathleen might have just swung me the other way back.
Is that right?
Kathleen might have just swung me the other way back, because I personally actually don't know a lot about the nitty-gritty of their organization, and you brought up some really good points of, are they targeting certain disabilities? Are they getting a wide range? What is it too wide of a range they're trying to capture and not really doing a good job of getting the folks the help that they need? So that question is definitely not answered for me.
Well, isn't the request for a technology hub in Chapel Hill?
Yeah.
So how many people are they gonna serve in Hillsborough with that money? giving money to community home trust for projects, you know. Similar, in my mind, similar kind of questions. Okay, so two and two.
Well, Mark, you just swung me around by reminding me of the community home trust, so.
So where are we at?
It's
So which
liquid.
side?
It's fluid, so I would be a no.
I didn't mean to, I was just making an observation. Okay, so 3 no's and 1 yes?
So my argument is, both my parents grew up working in the field of disabilities. My father was a rehabilitation counselor, my mom was a social worker. And so I grew up just in that community. And, I feel like so my understanding is they are the only disability awareness council in Orange County. Correct? As far as you know?
Well, they're the Disability Awareness Council, but they're not the only group that supports.
Oh, there's lots of people that provide services and assistance to people with disabilities throughout the county, absolutely. But they're the only one that come into us asking for funding.
True.
And I feel like if we just say no every year, it just doesn't allow them to necessarily grow and develop more. I'm not saying 500 acres, 1,000, absolutely not. But I feel like some little something would help maybe them grow and develop a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm scrolling just to maybe help the conversation. Looking through the requests.
How much,
Yeah, with my other notes.
if it were $3,000, just what impact would $3,000 be? Because that's not a hearing aid.
They broke down some of their programming and they had their programming at 11,000. And their overhead like at 6,500.
The page.
Oh, these are just my notes. Actually I took it out, I took it from the other packet that we got, so I don't have a page number for this one. But it's a section 3 of their application. What I'm looking at. They had broken down adaptive equipment demonstrations and training sessions for 5,000.
Yeah, I don't have it here,
But then instructor time for Hillsborough residents, 4,000 right there. So if they need the equipment and the training, and they need
So
what's 3,000 even to get them, or 5,000?
sounds better than none. So that's page 94 of the April 27th. Yeah. So if I can attempt this again, it sounds like there is willingness to fund them for something. There's recognition that their requests are maybe a little oblique to what we would normally fund and the different percentage, but maybe there's a desire to fund something and maybe with direction to say, if you come back next year, it's gotta be more aligned with, in keeping with how we fund things.
I would go lower part because what was your calculation, 3,400?
It was 38, I'm looking for it, and,
I would go lower.
under duress, I can't find it quickly.
Mhm. You need all the documents. And a spreadsheet.
So the total budget for the organization for this year's, 212,500.
Let's see what, there's no breakdown over that.
No.
They did not get funded from Orange County, at least in the management
No,
recommendation.
They were, oh, no, sorry, I'm thinking about another organization.
Or at least the last time I looked, they did not get funded.
Yeah, they, the outside agencies, I feel like this year they started assigning points.
They did that a couple years ago.
Deal, but minimum funding was 80 points just to be considered, so they scored below 80.
So 4.5% of their overall budget is 9,562.50.
I don't know how much.
And would like, someone would like to make a suggestion of an appropriate dollar amount for.
Say again, what was the percentage?
9,562,
Is for
50 is 4.5% of their entire budget. And I have no idea what that.
Like I said, I don't think it needs to be a line, I just feel like it needs to be something. I mean, I'm fine with like 3 to 5.
I'm thinking that last year I brought up the same things with them that I brought up again this year. That there was the same issue in both years, so I'm kind of leaning on the lower side.
I mean, I'm just,
And you're at 0, so.
I don't think, I mean. Their mission, absolutely.
Do you wanna move on to the next one and we can come back or
Let's see what the-
Well,
We threw out originally 5,000, which is lower than what Mark pulled together. I think 5,000 is a,
Well, the 3,800 was the 4.5% of their overall technology budget for this project that they're working on. So that is a working number, 3,800.
I'm good with that.
Put on the 3,000,
3,800.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, if that breaks down this other part.
And I think just giving direction that like, if you seek funding or renewal of funding next year, like, we really need to know. And make it part of a grant agreement or whatever documentation we need to do, that we really want to see some metrics of outreach in Hillsborough, how many folks not live in 27278, but like live in the municipality of Hillsborough. Would be great.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, Exchange Club Park.
I'm good at the request.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm sorry.
I'm good at the request.
I'm okay with the requested amount.
I bumped it up to 7,500.
I did too.
Just to make it
So they-
nice numbers,
they
yeah.
got
Because they came
Yeah.
in lower.
They came down 27%, and to me, that. You know, if everybody did that, we'd be having a different
Well,
discussion around
it's to
that.
me, what they do for this community.
Yeah, and what they did last year, I think, I mean, it wasn't just our funding, but
Yeah.
the improvements that they did in this last year are beneficial. to
May I ask staff a question? And that is Matt, that they're asking for $7,312 for mulch. For the trails. Can we get mulch? Cheaper than that? Any idea? Can we provide them the mulch?
Did they already replace it though?
They
And
did.
this is a back.
Good point.
I don't know, we can check on that.
Okay, well, it may be a moot point if they've already done it and they're seeking.
I don't know, I actually
I
can't
was,
remember last time
I was out there, but I can't I wasn't, it's one of
yeah, I
those-
can't remember.
Just a question, $7,500? 75, okay. All right, Fairview Community Watch, the request is 10,000.
Okay.
I'm okay with that one.
Same.
That's good.
Okay, the Fairview, Food, Fitness, and Opportunity Research Collaboration, which funds most of the programs for Fairview Community Watch.
You started at 25,000.
I just don't wanna set the expectation that we're able to do that.
I share your concern on an annual
I
basis.
suppose we could do it last year even for,
Yeah.
half a year, or whatever it was.
No, I do share your concern in terms of, because it's not sustainable year after year after year. Given the, just the general upheaval and just how that money is spent. To me, it saves money in, kids getting into trouble. And other things about the neighborhood that we end up paying, whether, as a community. So, to me, it's a good use of funds, and if they were to come back next year, we just can't do it year after year, so what I would like for us to do is, yes, fund it, but it comes with, the comment, guidance of this is a one, this is twice that's, no, we can't keep funding it. It's a one time, it's non-reoccurring. Or non-recurring,
Okay, thank you. Megan?
I originally, well, my opening statement was about the 13%. I dropped it down in my chart. To 4,800, which is just 10% increase. Or sorry, 48,000. Not that low, sorry. I agree with all the comments about, yeah, this can't be reoccurring. This originally is a federal program and you can't pick up a federal program that was, but yeah, they do such good work there. The programs are great. The town gets a lot from the programs, and like the sidewalk that we talked about earlier, right? Came from this program.
well, and just because the youth in action, I mean, there's a lot of things it keeps folks out of the justice system, it keeps people in school, it keeps folks out of emergency rooms, it's the lifetime impact of engaged people that's generationally shared, which to me, that is a big deal, but we just don't have that funding to do it.
Were you thinking the full funding?
I wanted to do the full funding this year, but next year, again, with the caveat of we just can't. Not to come back, this year, expect us to fund this, we can't.
Yeah,
But it gives them enough, or at least more time to replace. Meanwhile, it allows them to serve the community.
Matt?
I'm in favor of the full amount. For a few different reasons. Number one, it's the fact that they've lost their funding very unexpectedly. Number two, they do so much work in the Fairview community, which I hear the concerns, but I am much more worried about the negative effects to the residents that use them.
Exactly.
I think the other reason I'm willing to do this is I don't think of myself as appropriating in future years. I think people need to come back to reapply, that this is not necessarily a commitment, but it does give them a good number of months rather, to hopefully seek additional funding. Maybe that we do fund them something in the future. Maybe it's not 51,000 or 45,000, maybe it's considerably lower, but I don't think they're going to be able to find alternative sources of funding with significantly less funding to pay for the services. There's a limit to what folks are willing and able to do in terms of grant seeking and that sort of thing, with really a lot less funding and revenue. The other reason is the outside agencies component, which I don't recall how much they asked for the outside agencies, but they got zero from the county. So I think that by going less than what they requested, we're going to unfairly and probably disproportionately hobble the work they do in Fairview. So I think fund at the request that they asked for, with the caveat that we're not sure if we're going to be able to maintain that level of funding in future years. Not that we would not fund them, but just at that amount would be unsustainable. But I would hate, we just heard presentation about Rainy Avenue putting in sidewalks. Well, that wouldn't be possible without the folks who are being paid for through this program, and able to help residents navigate the complexities of local government and all that other stuff that I just don't want to dampen the momentum that we're seeing in the Fairview community.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So I appreciate all the comments from everybody, have the big picture, and everybody knows the phenomenal work that they do. and that can't be understated. So, what I have written down is that, we have 3 votes for, full amount, 1 for 4,800 and 1 for 2,500.
I'll go full now.
Full amount, okay, all right. So, if
4,800.
I,
40.
that was my, just my.
40,000, sorry, 40,000,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, well, it sounds like, there's a majority who favor, the full.
So I guess like, my ask would be, to serve more than just Fairview community. Yes, this is a community, center that's in the Fairview neighborhood. It's open to everybody. And how can they stretch those arms to serve more people outside?
That's actually part of when they presented, that was their plan to. They wanted
So
to.
I wanna see that though. And so I wanna see how, moving forward, how they're doing that, what the numbers are, where are these other people coming from, as part of their, I think.
I think, this goes into a conversation we could, probably later on one, but it's been a long-standing challenge
I know.
to have the rest of the community. We have a community where, how do I say this carefully? We have a lot of people who advocate for Fairview, but only a fraction actually go into Fairview. The parks, the tennis club is really good. Those folks go in. But there's a lot of folks in town that advocate for Fairview, but who don't actually go. But it's not Fairview. I mean, Fairview is that's part of the struggle that they can't carry the burden to get the rest of the town to come into Fairview. I don't know how to, I think we've got some options with our communications, and I know that they do a lot of Facebook and things like that, but ultimately, it's not, they can't force people coming into the community or going to attending the community center.
Can I interject and say, I'm looking at the clock, we have more to go,
Sorry.
and this is a long discussion. It sounds like there's consensus to fund it at the full amount, there's consensus to engage in conversation. And also limit the expectation that this is something we can do for a long time, and that there might be valuable information about how these programs are set up and how they serve the community that could be shared with the whole, we have 12 months to figure that out for them, so be happy to lead that conversation with them to help set their expectations and learn from them that we can share with the rest of the town. That sounds that reasonable.
And we also don't want the rest of the town to take over the programs that were designed for them in the first place.
Hillsborough Arts Council, 17,800.
Yes.
Right, Matt?
So here's the thing. I'm okay with an ask. I'm okay with an ask, and we consider that ask. But this is more appropriately funded through the meals tax. And the meals tax was set up originally, again, thank you, Sarah, for pulling those minutes. With our heritage tourism partners in mind, the Arts Council, the Alliance, the museum, Burwell School, and I'm forgetting.
The Alliance, the.
Burwell Arts
Arts
Council.
Council Museum.
Yeah, four. And I really think this and the Orange County Arts Alliance, I think is what it should say, fall into the same category. That tax was used or proposed in 1993, passed interestingly enough. Chapel Hill also proposed a meals tax around the same time that did not get passed by the General Assembly. And it was to create what they called at the time sustainable. I think it meant really guaranteed or foundational funding to our heritage. To our nonprofit partners who engage in heritage tourism. I know what the stumbling block is, and it's the tourism board. They were very concerned with their fund balance. They have no plan for a fund balance. They don't have a policy related to how much fund balance they should carry. When they passed the budget last year, it was almost a full year's worth of funding. Concerned about a disaster or something that could happen at some point. But again, no plan for the fund balance, no policy on how much fund balance they want to keep on hand. And what they would use the fund balance for if something did happen. Now, part of it would be cash flow. It makes sense that we have a policy related to related to our fund balance because we principally bring in revenue. I think Eric, you said within 6 weeks is where most of our property tax revenues are collected, is only within 6 weeks. So we need that fund balance to be able to maintain operations. The tourism board receives tax receipts every month. And so I don't know how to diplomatically make the suggestion that really this needs to be funded through the tourism board.
And you say, Orange County Arts Council too?
Yes. These are tourism related activities. And I don't believe it belongs in our general fund budget.
Yeah. Megan, you're our current rep to the tourism board and TBA.
Yeah, so, the Arts Council one first, similar line that Matt's on, at the tourism board, the Arts Council only asked for a 7% increase, and this is where I got into my percentage things. Only asked for a 7% increase over their contract, but yet here is a 13% increase over the contract for the same items that are in their tourism contract. And that part, it's only the poet laureate part is where that's only the town, when looking at their application. So, I don't know if it's all of it, if it's some of it, if it's everything minus the poet laureate. I kind of agree that maybe that should go to the tourism board. I will say that it is important that the town has, especially like when inflation is high and people's spending is down. They have something that I think that we need to recognize, like Last Fridays, that brings the town together in an environment that is accessible and it's free. And I think this board recognizing that is also important. So perhaps not. I wasn't zero on this line. I was thinking the poet laureate and some other portion of funding, but not the 17,800 asked for. And I'm open to numbers being thrown around, but the poet laureate is the only one in their application that's only coming to here. The rest of the items are on their contract with the tourism board.
Where in the poet laureate has to come from? Town funds, right?
I'm not.
Cause
It doesn't, and it's just something the town did.
oh,
In the
okay, I
past,
thought
that's
it's,
the only.
Yes, there's
Yeah, there was an expectation when they rebooted the poet laureate program that they were very interested in the town's opinion of the whole thing, and my response to them was, well, that's your thing, we fund it, but this is really your program. It's an arts council thing. We have funded it, so that was the kind of the guardrails of that conversation.
Yeah.
We're on page,
So we committed to fund the poet laureate.
in the past.
Yeah.
They just.
last year we did.
We did last year,
Yeah.
we took a hiatus, maybe since during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a break at
So-
some point.
So about a 4-year break.
So the other items, in this request is the solstice lantern walk,
Handmade parade.
the handmade parade, and last Fridays. So again, the last Fridays is, I think, really important to the town. So that one I was. I mean, they're all important to the town, really,
That was
but,
created with the mills tax.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually agree with Matt. It's. I knew that it was created for, in the meals tax specifically to support this. I was a little bit more lenient towards uproar, but fundamentally, it's, I've been aware of the fund balance, because when I was on, it was healthy, and there was zero plans, and there was no articulation of what an emergency would look like.
And that predates the 8 years I served on the.
Exactly,
Board.
so I really agree that, it should come from, you know, the tourism and TDA, that those two vehicles designed for that. Even the poet laureate, I hear, you know, that we were committed to pay for it, but I view that as still part of tourism, not town government here.
I'm actually a bit more
I'm
lenient
not-
with that.
I'm not, you know, for the poet laureate, I'm more, you know, I'm certainly more open. You know, it's not a hill I'm gonna die for. I agree that, you know, all of the activities absolutely benefit the community. But I too keep going back around, and that's why we created an entire funding stream dedicated to those activities, those types of activities.
So the.
Can I throw out a couple of observations right quick? One is in terms of fund balance of the tourism board and TDA, I think the pandemic was a stress test for them. So I don't know what the balance has got down to during the pandemic.
No, it's still fairly healthy.
Yeah. So.
It's
And
500.
the second thing is that, I've looked at the enabling legislation dozens of times for both the, occupancy tax and the meals tax. Creation of TDA, and, I don't have a good answer for what is the town's share of all those kind of life enriching activities that we do. It's not all for tourism. It's all for us who live in the town limits. So there's that muddies the water a little bit. But certainly if we have a dedicated funding stream, a successful long-term program, then I agree that that should be funding. So maybe there is some kind of way to transition over time from the town's expectation of funding to the tourism board, but that would be up to the tourism board and TDA to do that. There's no guarantee. So
I'm making my pitch on June 1st, if y'all wanna come and watch it.
What?
As chair of the Burwell, I'll be making some of those same pitches that these are
June 1st.
June 1st. 5:30 in this room. I think it's June 1st.
It is June first,
Okay.
yeah. I was looking at the
I'm
wrong.
questioning it, I mean.
I know, I was,
oh my
I was
gosh,
looking at the
committed to
agenda page.
memory, but I think that the issue that they also struggle with is this term sustainability with these organizations. And the fact of the matter is, they're nonprofits because they can't be profit-making entities. That, you know, if they were, someone would already have a Hillsborough Arts Incorporated and be making all kinds of money on it. But sustainable in 1993 was that they would have sustainable revenue, meaning that it was really sustained revenue rather than sustainable revenue, and that there probably is a way to get these entities additional funding but that this meals tax really provides the foundational support for these organizations and just really should be funded. And I'm proud that when I was chair of the tourism board, we really did ratchet up support of these organizations from barely 30,000 to well over, I think with the exception of the museum, $50,000 each. And
This one in particular, it was 75, they're asking for this year. And 70 was given last year
so
From the tourism board?
from tourism. Now TDA is giving also. TDA for currently right
Arts
now.
Council or?
Yeah, for Arts Council, TDA has 30,000 out of 80.
And 75 for Hillsborough Arts Council.
75, yeah, this is only for the Hillsborough Arts Council. Tourism Board is 75,000, TDA is at 30,000.
So they have 6 figures from those two ones already.
No, their budgets have gotten much, much bigger.
They're, according to what they presented a couple, meetings ago, their budget is 367,800. And what they're asking from us tonight represents 5% of their budget. The importance of the town having contributed to that is important to them.
17, they is 5%.
5%. But what they're asking tonight is 5% of their total budget.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, if they could have $1 million budget and 5% would be a giant number from. Can't just fund it because it's only 5%. I'm not saying that's a good argument, I'm just giving you the math. So is there a consensus on funding strategy? I'm hearing a lot of support for the concept of transitioning away from.
Yeah, and
Town funding towards tourism board and TDA, and what are your thoughts on?
I just have a question, if anybody knows, you mentioned something about the town being behind these programs that they do, like us throwing money at them, does that help with grants or like that, like the grant
Yeah, the
is it?
leverage.
Yeah.
Leverage.
That's the only other part of it that I'm like, is that
the tourism
a
board
factor?
is the town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think, moving forward, that we ask them for some. Proof that, that benefited basically from using that leverage too. Because I don't, they say yes, but I don't, never present us with, oh yeah, they're matching this. Because, you put it this or whatever too. I think, anything arts, I'm supportive of. Again, it's something that we can't necessarily provide as a town and people come from all over the Hillsborough now because there's a art scene here. Whether it's on the western part, or whether it's right downtown or in one of our, parks or our neighbors across the street or River Park. People, this is like a destination for arts and culture now. And I don't know if you could say that 20 years ago. There were definitely artists all around, but I don't think people were coming here specifically for, last Fridays. And then, what they do with Solstice Walk and really all of their programs, I think are just, phenomenal. They offer them for free. That's kind of unheard of in this, day and age, people being able to still be out and recreate in your community, and you can do it without spending, money. And so I'm supportive of both of them at their asking levels, but that's just.
A quick glance at the enabling legislation. If 60% of the proceeds will be used for this and 40% will be used for that, but what they both are attract visitors and tourists to the town. So that gets me back to a lot of this programming is for Hillsborough residents. So I feel like not that I get to vote, let's break time, that the town should have some skin in the game, but absolutely agree that the meals tax and occupancy tax programs are working very well. And if there's funding to support all that work, then that should be the funds used for it, because that's why it was set up. And that's why I think to answer Commissioner English's statement, that's why we've been so successful in the past 20 years, because of these programs.
And I also say we did change the formula. That formula was only for the first few years of the tax. We changed the formula through ordinance, so. Matt, were you here for that? No,
We did change the formula.
in our ordinance.
I've never seen it. I would love to see it.
But I don't remember what we changed it to.
Enabling legislation, they're saying, for the first couple of years, this is the formula, but it's up to the town to change it.
No,
Okay, so, yes.
I don't think I proposed to them for, go.
Okay, so, is there a consensus that, almost consensus, sorry, Ron, that the desire of the board is to transition the majority of this funding request back to tourism board and TDA, which were set up to do this kind of work. And, Matt Eford is raising his hand.
Just a process procedural question for the board, because of where we're at in both budget processes. The applications have already been made to the tourism board and TDA, that deliberation's happening in a few weeks. The board can't direct spending by those bodies, and so I just want to point that out. The decision you make tonight may result in, loss of funding, if that's what the board intends, because those processes are already kind of ongoing. I just wanted to proceed.
Yes, I think we have acknowledged that it's up to the tourism board and TDA to do it, so the town board may be looked upon again as a backstop. As those fundings are not.
At the last tourism board meeting, I told the tourism board that they might be a backstop if this board decides not to fund them. So there was just comment at our last meeting, and I was like, I think I might just mention this at the tourism board, so they're aware that we're deliberating on it at the same time that they're deliberating.
So is there a desire by this board to work towards a transition of the funding, ratcheting down, pushing off, and giving everybody time to adjust?
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
to
I
make
think
it
it's
abrupt
fair, I think it's
change?
fair to give time.
Okay.
I would propose 10,000, based on the poet being 7,000 of it. And then 3,000, let's see where last Friday go. Last Friday is at 7,000 also, but,
Yeah,
but another 3,000.
I was willing to go up to 15,000.
Okay, I mean, I originally had 15, but I was going off the conversation here, so I could go up to 15 too.
Yeah, I didn't want to do more than 15 and. But with the idea of transitioning,
15. Yeah,
15.
with a continued transition downward. Rob?
17.8. I agree with, the transitioning, and it should be coming in, but I also believe that, the town of Hillsborough residents directly benefit from their programs and their services, and that we should contribute to that.
And to answer your question, the split is still 60-40, but originally the specific enabling legislation said 60% for a visitor center. And then we changed it so that it's 60% for visitor services. That includes the operation of the center rather than just 60% to the center, because what the tourism board was doing was cutting a huge check to the alliance.
Yeah.
For the visitor center, and they were remitting funds back. And so Shannon helped get us to right size that. Because as the receipts for the tax grew, 60% of the receipts went to the alliance for the visitor center. And we changed it to say 60% shall be used for visitors.
So that was a policy decision. The enabling legislation says 60% for visitor services.
But the way I think our
Yeah,
ordinance
the
had
way it
originally
was,
said
it went because they had to do their remittance back. I mean, we were burning resources just doing back and forth.
Okay.
It was a pain in the tuchus.
Okay, so 15,000 and direction, Megan, you can deliver
Yeah.
more details and have conversation and maybe come back with a recommendation for how the tourism board feels about NTDA, but
Well, we have our
Transition.
public, yeah, I can, yes, I can, and then we have our public hearing on the first, so I'm sure I would expect the Arts Council to come together based on this conversation right now.
And I, you know, on the uproar, just because of the effects of Chantal and, you know, I was like, you know, this year you know, the 10,000, but again, I want to set the expectation of using the funding streams as they were intended.
we ready to move on to OCN? 10,000 is the request, that's all to pay water.
Oh,
Bills, assistance, is everybody okay with that?
bless you.
Okay. And Orange County Arts Alliance, and I think the request is for $10,000 to support the forum. Similar conversation.
That one I would like them to go to the TDA, so TDA actually has a line item in the proposed budget, but plan was to go there, right, when Katie was here.
They have not gone to TDA.
So TDA did put in a line item for them, but when Katie was here, she didn't mention going to the TDA, so.
No, no.
I mean, yeah, I think she should go to the TDA.
Yeah.
I think the TDA is ready to say yes to her, but I don't know what.
line item is?
I'm gonna say it was 10,000 also, or 8,000, 8 or 10.
I think the idea was 10,000 here, 10,000 to TDA. The reason here and not all to TDA, I think was, perhaps a perceived hesitancy by the tourism board to put in 10. But I think TDA could definitely do all 20.
Okay.
And the request is, I'm on page 119 of the packet from our previous conversation. The minimum they need to be viable for this from the test, 8,000. Not 10.
I mean, I do recognize Chantal just kicked their butts and so I'm. You know, I want to see Uproar continued and help them pass the Chantal, but again, big picture of TDA. I'd like to see them leverage TDA as intended and certainly maximize the TDA support.
Thoughts? So
Same.
0.
10 for me.
We're done. Sorry, I was looking,
I need to come to your house when it's my birthday. You're
Yeah.
saying yes to everything.
I'm not saying yes to everything, I'm saying yes to everything arts. And yes to most things.
so the TDA did have 5,000.
So I guess to Matt Iford's point, if we don't fund them and then they go to the TDA and they don't fund them. What are their options?
They would not have Hillsborough is how I understood it.
It would, say again,
They would
no
not,
uproar?
they would have Uproar, but just Chapel Carver.
And my understanding is that maybe Hillsborough is a lot more receptive and participatory.
Yeah, we're gonna house them up
Chapel-
here.
Chapel's so much bigger, right? So it's probably gonna be a difficult thing to work out. But can I make a suggestion?
But if you think about that too, where they divide it pretty evenly, 20, you know, we have as many, you know, displays in our little footprint than the bigger brothers and sisters down south.
To answer your question about what happens if we're not the backstop and tourism board and TDA are not the backstop. We are on target to spend less than what we had thought about budgeting, so there might be
Always do a budget
flexibility.
amendment. So we could always do a budget amendment.
Okay. So Rob, you're saying 10 and everybody else is saying 0? Do I have that correct?
No, I said, I would do 10,
I would do 10.
yeah. For Uproar, I was,
Yeah, for Uproar.
yeah.
But I thought, I'm sorry,
For up,
I'm deaf on this. So what about the tourism board TDA or TDA? You're saying,
I still think they should be transitioned. setting the expectation, don't, this is not a continuous spigot. But given the impacts of Chantal and the recovery, yeah,
I think the momentum is so crucial right now. They've had two, I think, really successful ones and the previous one was
yeah,
bigger than the
especially.
initial one. And I just feel like there's energy kind of behind it.
I agree on that growth because they also will end up getting additional funding once you hit whatever that critical mass is.
So the consensus is 10,000.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Occupancy tax, I want that to be used,
And
I
feel like the
do
TDA,
want.
and it's not in
healthy
addition
Yeah.
to 10,000.
I think the TDA would fund the request
Can we make it contingent upon?
on TDAs.
Yeah, like if they don't get it, then, I mean, if they get it all from tourism or TDA, then we renege on our part.
Just another budget adjustment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the TDA meets, this week. No, next week. Yeah, we meet, Wednesday.
Okay, so the
I
direction
will know
is,
by our next workshop.
Yeah.
okay, going once, going twice, 10,000, 0. If the consensus says then 10,000,
And then the next budget workshop is.
okay. Um. Guess the last one then is table.
No,
No,
not after raising $2 million.
no kidding, yeah.
What was 1.2? Did you see 2?
I know it said two.
That was 1.2.
Yeah, it's still a million
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that was enough.
Okay, so according to my math, Emily, that adds up to 107,983. And I will share my spreadsheet with you later. So to confirm, disability,
they think we had 7,500.
yeah, I'm gonna read, can I go down the list?
Okay.
Disability Awareness Council, 3,800. Exchange Club Park, 7,500. Fairview Community Watch, 10,000. Food Fitness, the Fork Program, 51,683. Hillsborough Arts Council, 15,000. Orange Congregation Mission, 10,000. And Orange County Arts Alliance, 10,000. 0 for table.
Can we give OCM an extra $2,000 because the demand just is so freaking.
They got big scoffers too, though, based on their operating budget.
And we know that they go through that $10,000 pretty quickly, only for water
Yeah,
support. Right?
Yeah.
It's not just water.
it's just, yeah.
That was the easiest one for me to yes, yeah. No, I know.
Why aren't they asking for more of them?
Well, I know that they are very conscious of our budgets.
I don't know if they are. I think they've asked 10,000 for.
They
that,
have,
right?
but they've operated on such shoestrings. But they do run out. And 107, I'd like to, if we want to, I'd like to be able to me, they're the ones that get priority of anybody.
I'm surprised they're asking us more. I agree.
I do.
So, and well, it's not just them, they're the pass through for us supporting water bills. Do you recall what the details were? They have a need that's probably 4 times what we give them for support.
I don't recall that offhand.
Eric says that math, that sounds familiar. I mean, it's way more than 10,000.
Yeah, it's multiple times. I think the first time was just a few years ago, maybe even 2 roughly. So it's a relatively new request, but yeah, I think they could give away 10 times the amount. 10 times that.
I mean,
So
I
Kathleen's proposal is 12.
I mean, I pulled the $5,000 from Arts Council to give it to them. Because these
Yeah.
are the most vulnerable. Arts is a higher needs and luxury. This is water, this is fundamental.
Megan?
Yeah,
12, 10.
I'm good with 12 for them.
I personally don't believe in giving folks more than they asked for. Even though we know that the need, that it could be used and that sort of thing, I still think it's a conscious decision. To ask for an amount and to get that amount.
So would you go down on the exchange code, set that back to 7312 instead of 75?
I wouldn't.
To be honest, yes. I would.
That's kind of what I wrestled with too. I was like, it's $188. And. But because they were the only one that actually reduced from what they asked in previous years, that's what, made me came back home. But I kind of agree with Matthew, and I can go back to 7312 also, if that's the case.
I would
But
stick
my,
to-
I guess my argument is they should ask for more if they wanted more.
So I get to bracket time.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm done.
You do this, you do. You
Kind of
do.
unofficial, right?
Yeah.
Further on that, give me my.
Go for it. I want you to remind so you can.
Okay, so I would say yes to 11,000. How diplomatic is that?
Nice second.
And by the way, that gets us up to,
110.
very close to the $110,000 budget. Right, so we have about $1,000 to spare.
That's why I picked 12,000.
Okay, so 11,000. Okay.
So last question, specifically related to the general fund budget is, are there any other questions that we did not, discuss tonight, or they need additional information, before budget adoption?
I know. That's much.
Seeing none. Two more slides to go here. Matt put together a slide showing all of the FEMA reimbursements. Not sure. if you have
So I won't go through this. Bottom line, we've recovered about $2 million between FEMA and insurance. We expect about $1.5 million in additional funding to come from FEMA and insurance. And that is not including long-term mitigation for river pump station or the reservoir. So that's kind of just a status check where we are. This question came up earlier in one of the workshops, and this is what I've seen our surrounding communities report out. Is like, hey, how much of your budget picture is due to the storm? And well, this is our answer. This is what we've gotten back.
How does this compare to our area local governments in terms of what they say?
So we're doing fairly well comparatively. We're farther ahead in the process than Carver is. They have some bigger projects that they haven't recovered on yet. Orange County didn't suffer as many losses, and so I think their stuff was fairly quick. The low dollar stuff, FEMA's moving through pretty quick. I'm not sure where Chapel Hill is in their process.
So I spoke with some of our colleagues on other boards, and it's still a big question mark for them, but I do have to give kudos to our staff that part of the response was making sure we collected all the documentation that we immediately, as soon as we could, started putting in to get reimbursed or paid back. And I don't know if that was how everyone approached it, but I think it paid off some really good dividends for us. in my opinion. So kudos. That's a lot of money.
Right. Okay, last one. Just more or less a quick check-in on the budget process timeline.
It's
Yeah.
just, I will not be here on the eighth, I will be in board meeting in Tulsa. For NARC.
Time. So no time. There you go.
So I want to check in to see, do we need to meet for the 27th for a second workshop? I didn't hear, I don't think any discussion items that we were coming back with necessarily.
Not here.
The only thing I could think of on the 28th is just getting an update about TDA potentially.
Well, we asked for what 2% would look like. Also. I need 2 cents, what that would look like.
In terms of,
If we, what the picture, we asked what the budget picture would look like if we did the 2 cents.
There's the
the
Emily did the
chart in
general
the
one.
email from her.
Apologies, I haven't seen.
We would have I read it correctly, 2 cent, we would have maybe a $13,000 surplus. Did I read that right? Emily?
No.
Okay,
You're technically,
Yeah.
it's, you're not legally allowed to budget a surplus, but you just like boost your contingency or do something like that, but they'll handle that, but yeah.
Yeah, 13 cents. But it makes sense.
Anything else?
I just want to be clear, even if we don't have a budget workshop for that evening, we do need to meet because we called a public hearing, for the data center.
Oh, that's right.
On the
It's been
20
advertised already,
on the 22nd?
on the 27th, May 27th.
For me.
Oh, May 27th.
So in terms of budget updates, the only thing was an update on the TDA.
We'll be here.
Okay. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Chad.
Great work. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Thank you, Matt. Kathleen, all in favor?
Alright.
There you go.
And an endurance award to everybody in the audience and the staff who hung around till 11.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Cal, who volunteered to sit through all of it. Hi, Cal. How you doing?
Eric invited me and said.